Good evening and welcome to the May 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. This meeting is called to order. Our meeting is being recorded and aired live by LCTV. It is also being live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement for anyone to disclose if they are recording this meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under correspondence tonight, we have recorded a memo from Mr. Donald Jarvis dated May 3rd, 2017. The month of April 2017, the Long Meadow students honored our Ashley Matthews for Graphic Communications 2 and Integrated Occupational Prep. Also, Kevin Gonzalez, who's being recognized for Information Support Services and Networking 2. Congratulations to those students. We also received a memo from the LPVEC Career and Technical Educational Center regarding outstanding vocational students for 2017. And the Long Meadow student recognized again here was Ashley Matthews for Integrated Occupational Prep. Congratulations to Ashley. Next, we move on to approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion, please?
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the April 25th, 2017 school committee meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion or feedback on the minutes? All those in favor? No abstentions tonight, correct? Okay. Do we have any visitor comments this evening? Okay. Hello to all of our visitors in the audience. Next, we have school committee announcements and recognitions. And first on our agenda, under recognitions was, I was hoping to recognize Nishal D'Souza, who's been our student rep all year. I'm not sure if she's going to be joining us tonight. So if she does come, then we'll recognize her when she comes. But I'd love for her to be here just to say thank you. And she's been lovely, incredible, intelligent, amazing representative, and made great contributions to our committee this year. I give her a lot of credit for her leadership and for her insights and for her patience with all of us sitting through our meetings also. So I hope to be able to thank her in person for that. Next, I would like to recognize and thank our committee members who will be leaving us: Liz Bone, Michael Clark, and John Fitzgerald. And in recognition and thanks to all three of you, I have plaques that Diane has provided for Liz Bone and for Michael Clark and for John Fitzgerald. And I'd love to give you all, I'd love to say thank you to all of you for all your many, many years of dedicated service. And of course, when you serve on a committee with so many people, you know, we don't always agree on issues, and that's okay, because in the end, I know we all really appreciate the work that we do and the collaboration, and I'm very grateful to all of you for all of the work you've done over the years. I thank you.
Thank you.
So if anyone would like to say anything, please feel free.
I have a few comments I just want to pass on, and I'll try not to take too much time with them. Well, Madam Chairperson, colleagues, this evening marks my final school committee meeting. I'd like to thank the Long Meadow voters who have elected me to 3 terms of service on this committee. I'd also like to thank my colleagues on the school committee, both past and present, for the opportunity to serve with them over the years on behalf of the students of the Long Meadow Public School System. I would be remiss not to mention the quality of work given to our students and our committee by our administrative staff in particular. And I especially want to thank Tom Mazza for his work with me on the Finance Subcommittee. No one serving on the school committee should ever forget to thank Diane Jordantis for her service. So thank you, Diane. Over the years, I believe that we work best when we follow the motto, of eyes on the child. It is always well to remember that we are here for the benefit of the students and the cause of public education. As Horace Mann counseled in the 19th century, we are their voice and their advocates in the community and in the committee. I consider public education to be a noble cause because it directly supports the cause of democracy and the goal of a civilized community. Critical thinking skills and a strong sense of history are essential for the preservation of our American constitutional experiment. Our schools support those goals. My service on the school committee cannot be measured in dollars, but it can be measured by the support I was able to give to the success of the new high school project, the support we all gave to the music and arts program, and the committee's support of health education. In all of these tasks, we were aided by considerably by the work of the Long Meadow Educational Excellence Foundation, LEAF, and I thank them for their service. So to conclude, let me say to all of you, thank you and farewell.
Thank you, John.
I'll go next, I guess. Okay, so during these past 5 years, I've learned so much about public education and how hard our staff works to ensure the best for all students. And I will miss working with this administration, but hopefully my work on other committees will allow me to keep working with them. I want to thank you, Marty, Tom, Sue, Diane, the principals, the custodians, the staff, prior school committee members, and voters. And I'll just give you some information. When I remember a few years ago, before I was on the committee, I was studying a budget report and trying to make sense of it all. And I was hesitant to believe that each line was actually truly needed. So fast forward 5+ years, I realized that until you work side by side with these amazing people, you truly don't appreciate or understand their experience, their knowledge, or their efforts to do the best for all students. I have some advice for new members. Remember, you're part of a group that assists the school department with policies, budgets, and you're in charge of hiring and firing the superintendent. And you will collaborate with the administration, discuss new ideas, and assist them with difficult decisions. But I implore you to trust this administration. They're experts. They just didn't find an article on Facebook or react to town gossip. They also have years of experience. They collaborate. They attend conferences, and they're always learning. I want to thank Michael and John for being by my side on this journey. I'm sure I've said this before, but John was my history teacher and inspired me to get my teaching degree in history. And John's love for history is almost as deep as his love for public education. He's also outspoken when he feels he needs to be, and sometimes I'm glad he said things that I didn't get to. Not only is John brilliant and a voracious reader who can give you any update on any current event, and I hope that John and I will continue to work together on other endeavors. And also I want to thank Michael for calling me in 2012 and encouraging me to run for school committee. Again, Michael and I share similar views in the world, education, and he's the most determined young man I've ever met. And Michael will leave a big mark on this world, and I also hope to work with him in the future. And I leave you with this. Long Meadow students, leave with a stellar education, ready to face this uncertain world, and I'm proud and thankful to have been part of it. Thank you.
So brevity's not my strong suit, so I apologize. Tonight is, it's very bittersweet for me, as I'm sure everyone can imagine, and I'm sure Liz and John share that as well. But tonight I feel a lot of gratitude. There have been so many people that have made these last 6 years on the school committee a truly life-changing and unforgettable experience. I came onto this committee, like Liz said, at 21 with very, very little experience, but a lot of ideas about how I was going to change the system. And in many ways, I did change the system, but I didn't do it alone. I did it with the help of colleagues, a great administrative team, and thousands of residents in Long Meadow who are committed to excellence in education. And together we led the effort to write the most progressive social media policy in the Commonwealth, and it's modeled by several districts, including Gil Montague and Mohawk Regional. Together we built sustainable plans for technology replacements that provide students and teachers with access to important information critical to teaching and learning. Together, we opened this beautiful new high school. It's a true hallmark of the time and energy and sense of community that developed around the building project, and a true representation of our community and our values. And I'm proud to have been a school building committee member along the way. Together, we expanded kindergarten education so that all children have access to kindergarten here in Long Meadow. We might have done it a little slower than some might have wanted, but we did get there, and I'm very proud that we did. Together, we've stood on principle, and we've protected the rights of all students, regardless of the color of their skin, who they love, what they believe, their gender identity, even in a time when, not so long ago, the Commonwealth itself didn't even extend those same protections to students. Long Meadow did. Together, we've saved teacher jobs. We've built budgets that meet the needs of all learners. We've invested in materials that make the difference in classrooms. We've been responsive to the needs of every student through professional development and new ways of teaching. And tonight, I leave this school committee a proud graduate of Long Meadow Public Schools. I had the privilege of going to Center with Donna, of Williams, and of course the high school with Tom and Marty, actually. But this hasn't always been easy. I'm sorry. Tonight, I also believe that this district is better for all the reasons I outlined and countless more. But this hasn't always been easy, and change rarely is. We've made unpopular decisions that have struck people on very personal levels, like redistricting. And while I've made decisions on this board that might have been unpopular, I have stood by every vote I've ever taken, and I'm proud of all the votes that I have. When I first entered public office, I received the following advice, and I think it's helpful for future school committee members and members here today, that you should always go to bed knowing that you did the right thing, regardless of how popular it was, and that's something that has driven me these last 6 years. And while I'm proud of all the accomplishments, none of it would be possible without the help of so many people. So first, I'd like to thank my fellow school committee members who are here tonight, as well as those who aren't. Gwen Bruns, Tom Burnett, Armin Ray, Jennifer Jester, Lori Flynn, Owen Humphreys, Jim DeRocher, Gerard Kiernan, Katie Gerard, Kim King, and Janet Robinson. I also want to acknowledge my other two colleagues who are leaving the school committee tonight, Liz Bone and John Fitzgerald. Liz, most people don't know about the tireless work and the outstanding contributions that you've made to improving our school community. For those of you that don't know, Liz actually works pretty ferociously behind the scenes, and she's spearheaded efforts to improve and increase recycling here in our schools. She led the team tasked with compliance with Mass CHIPS, which is the environmental points that we got on our MSBA reimbursements for the high school. So all those signs you see throughout the school, Liz helped develop. And even now, Liz is continuing to work on making our schools and all of our town buildings more efficient. More importantly, Liz is a history teacher by trade, and just like her former teacher, John Fitzgerald. And I think that is really important as we, over the last 5 years, to have had such great teaching perspectives on the committee. Liz, I am so honored to have served with you for the last 6 years, or 5 years, and I'm proud to call you my ally, my partner in crime, and most importantly, my friend. Thank you for your service to our community, and thank you for everything you've done for me. And John, I have never met someone more passionate about education than you. We haven't always agreed, and while we've often butted heads, I have nothing but respect and admiration for you. Your passion for education doesn't just come from teaching, but from a real desire to affect change. Thousands of students are better off for your service, not only as a teacher in Long Meadow, but your work over the last 9 years on this committee. You are a ferocious advocate of your values and your beliefs. I am so proud to have served beside you as well, and more importantly, I'm also proud to call you my friend. No one has done more for Long Meadow students than you have, and our entire community owes you a debt of gratitude for your service, so thank you. I also want to acknowledge a few other people. Tom Mazza, who became my go-to person when I was chair of the committee and chair of the finance subcommittee for all things budget. Tom sat patiently with me for hundreds of hours, literally, over the last several years, helping me understand all the decisions that this board was going to be making, large or small. More importantly, Tom also became my friend. A lot of people have become my friends in this committee. And I'm really proud to know you, and I'm proud to have worked with you. You are an incredibly important asset for this district, and your work behind the scenes literally keeps the lights on in these schools. I couldn't have survived on these last 6 years without your steady hand as a trusted advisor. So thank you for everything you've done for me, for your friendship, for your mentorship and your guidance. Sue? Yeah. From the moment I met you and I asked you if you were eating bacon during a finance committee meeting in 2010, through today, you've been a source of laughter, friendship, and guidance for me as well. Your patience with me as I tried to learn everything there was to know about special education, about curriculum, about professional development, it all means quite a lot to me. More than anything else, though, you've been a comfort through tough times and a source of joy in good ones. You inspire me, and I'm so fortunate to have worked with you for the last 6 years as well. Marty? While we haven't had the chance to work together as long as Sue, Tom, and I have, you do have the distinct honor of being the only person to give me detention at the table tonight. So that's good.
Just one?
Just one. All kidding aside, though, the most important vote, and I think the greatest decision that I've ever made on this board, was casting a vote for you to be our superintendent. The way you came into this role with such ease, a true desire to learn about our culture, or in your case, really reacquaint yourself with it, the respect you display to everyone, staff, parents, students, and the community as a whole is laudable. The inroads you built with our town manager, our select board, they're impressive, and they make me confident that future budgets, while always challenging, will be collaborative and positive experiences. You're a true leader and an excellent superintendent, and I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to have had your help and guidance this past year, and I'm proud that you're here. Diane? Honestly, I saved the best for last because I literally could not function without you. I don't think any of us could. You've made life easier. You've made my life more organized. You've demonstrated so much restraint in not killing me when I don't get you things on time or when I've dragged my feet. But more importantly, you're a remarkable woman with so much compassion and strength. You are the glue that holds this entire thing together. You keep the trains running on time. And I want to thank you for everything you've done for me and for this committee and for this district. You are a true unsung heroine, and you deserve all the credit in the world for everything that we've accomplished as a committee. And my only regret is that I'll never get to see you at the Hukilau again. But seriously, thank you. You don't know how much you mean to me on a personal level and how much I think you mean to all of us leaving. Finally, I'd like to thank the teachers, our principals who are here tonight, and the entire staff for making these last 6 years an unforgettable experience. I first ran for school committee because I had the desire to get back to my community. And now more than ever, that spirit of civic pride and participation is critically important for our democracy. As a 21-year-old, I faced cynicism for my desire to serve my community. And what gave me strength to believe in myself and the ability to be the voice of our community was the skills that I learned in Long Meadow. My teachers never once told me that I couldn't do something, even with a learning disability and an IEP. My teachers always asked me to challenge the status quo, to stand up for my convictions, to believe in myself. Those teachers who gave me the strength and confidence, those very teachers who gave me the confidence and strength to run for office, are the same teachers who have produced doctors, and lawyers, executives, and scientists. And they've inspired other people to pursue teaching as well, to give back to their communities, to serve their country. They've made this world better, they've made me better, and serving them has been the honor of my lifetime. Today, we should be encouraging more people to get involved, not less. In a time when it seems like our very institutions are at risk, local governments, school committees, select boards, that's where the real action happens. That's where things that matter most, good schools, safe streets, that's where those things happen. And they don't happen on their own. They happen through the dedication of frankly underpaid and underrepresented people who risk their lives daily to make our world just a little bit better. We owe them our thanks, but more importantly, we owe them our time. If there's one thing that I ask you to remember about my time on the committee, it's this, that service to our community comes in all forms. But those who sit on the sidelines lose the right to complain. They say that we get the government that we deserve, and I think that's true. And my hope for the future of this district is that this committee is populated by people who can see the full picture, people who care about every child's success, not just that of their own or their friends. I hope that future committee members have the courage to stand up for what they believe in, even if it's unpopular, or the pressure they receive from people they know is too great. I hope that they share the values of service that I spoke of, but most importantly, I hope they keep their eyes on the child, and they never lose sight of what's at stake, and that's our future. So thank you. Thank you to the teachers, to the town support staff, to the administrative team, our students, and everyone who has made this journey an incredible one for me. This isn't the end of my public service, but it is the start of something new. So thank you.
Thank you to all three of you again for your thoughtful comments and reflective comments. Really appreciate it. Moving on to, so I had on the agenda comments, but my comments are not prepared yet, so I will probably add those to our next agenda. And we'll move on to announcing the Longmeadow High School graduation will be held June 11th at Symphony Hall in Springfield at 1 p.m. I don't know if there are any other details accompanying that announcement that you wanted to add, Tom or Marty?
We'll need to
Same.
identify which school committee members will join us on stage or
Okay.
able to that day, so you can be in touch with Diane on that, so.
Does anybody know for sure today whether they'll be attending? I know I'll be attending.
I'll be there.
Michael, Russ,
I'll get you
Liz.
the names of the kids.
I think
John?
I'm going to be traveling.
Okay. Okay, great. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Perfect. Here. Next on our agenda, we have guests with us tonight, and Donna Hutton, the principal of Center School, is here with us with some teachers. Hopefully you can introduce for us to discuss the homework study that you have been working very, very tirelessly on all year. And we really look forward to hearing from you. And
So as they're getting set up, so we've been, the teachers in front of you and many more have been at this for some time now, and we were charged with coming up with an approach to homework that was an expression of best practice, that was research-based, that reflected the input of staff, the community, and I'm really proud of the final product here that the team has put together. And so they'll present to you an expression of what we are calling our guiding principles in relation to elementary homework. And perhaps, as we experience the guiding principles, we'll take a look next year at how this information, how this approach might translate or work for our middle school teachers or high school staff, but really, really pleased with the work they've done. So a couple technical difficulties here, it appears.
Just a moment.
Okay.
I'd just like you all to remember that we spend our time with young children. Talking in front of adults is not always easy.
we understand.
I've never known you to have that problem.
Would you mind all
Never
just
known you to have that problem.
So, you know what,
Introducing
while he's
yourself.
setting up, maybe I can get us started. First of all, homework. When you say homework, I think the topic and word itself will always spark lively debate and plenty of controversy. When we were doing our research, we even went back and read an article that said in 1900, there was an article printed by the editor of the Ladies' Home Journal, and that was a very prestigious magazine at the time. And the editor published an article called "A National Crime at the Feet of Parents." And it was accusing homework of destroying American youth. So we went through the historical perspective of homework, and what we discovered is that the pendulum shifts, and it truly depends on what's going on in society. And the bigger question is, what is it that we want our children to be doing in their free time? That's the larger question. And that's the gist of a lot of the work. And are we set up yet? Okay. So I want to differentiate between a committee and a study group, and we truly were a study group, and we dug into the research. Let me just get my...
Would you mind all introducing yourselves?
I am. We're going to
That would
introduce
be
ourselves.
great.
Go ahead, and we have some in the audience, too, some of the members in the audience. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Erin Kraft. I'm a third grade teacher at Center School.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Valerie Fritz. I'm a reading specialist at Center School.
I'm Suzanne Higgins. I'm third grade at Blueberry.
Nice to see you.
I'm Paige Anderson and I teach fifth grade at Center.
I'm Karen Rafferty, I'm a literacy coach at Center School.
And then who else do we have in the audience?
I'm Maureen Lind, I teach first grade at Blueberry Hill.
Maureen Lind, okay, thank you.
Jenny Serafino, second grade at Center.
And Jenny Serafino, second grade at Center. I'm just announcing it for the people at home. Thank you.
I think we're good here. Let me get our. So, who's not with us? There were other members on the group that I want to recognize.
Lynn Linehan.
Yes.
And Michelle Hansen.
Yes. And Katie Cardos. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by this. I want to get us rolling. Nick.
This is the equipment that is slated for replacement. So, yeah, PowerPoint is opening. It's just taking its
It's
time.
opening very slowly.
It's a suspense technique.
This better be a good plan then. Very suspenseful.
So our goal this evening is you have our guiding principles for homework. What we would like to do is walk you through our process so that you understand how we got to that final document. Yay! And we did have representatives from each elementary school. Okay, so like any good study group, what we did is we had framing questions to start our research. And each of these questions is part of the outline of our work. And that's what we're going to talk to you about this evening. So, here we go.
Okay, so I thought I'd share the process a little bit or get it started for us. Again, it's Erin Kraft. So as a group, we met for close to 15 hours in person, face-to-face. We also spent outside time where we read articles at home and then came back and reported about those research articles. To start, we explored that question, what is the purpose and goal of homework? And as any reflective educator would consider this and the whys, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of homework? And it was just interesting as a group to do that. As we dug in and talked about it, our own personal experiences, why do we do this as educators? The answers kind of ran the gamut. We had people, anything from practice and preparation to public relations. The idea that people expect homework. We should be assigning it because it means rigor. So, those were all pretty honest answers, and I think we were pretty honest with ourselves when we walked through the process. We then turned that same question, what is the purpose and goal of homework, over to our colleagues as we met in our grade level team meetings and shared our, ideas at that point. Then their responses, our responses, we compiled them, and that kind of set the stage as we delved into the research. So I'm going to turn it over now to Paige Anderson, who's going to walk you through that process and how we analyzed the research that we read at home.
So as Erin said, we researched and read scholarly articles about the whys of homework for many weeks. So if you walked into our study group, you would find a group of professionals from the district analyzing research. And we read articles for many weeks, and we each wrote executive summaries about our articles, which then we would bring back to the group and reflect upon and share. These summaries and the articles we read, and we have a bibliography that we created, which are available to you if you're interested in reading any of them. And from our research, we found that all of our studies concluded that homework has little to no benefit for students. And we use this research to frame our guidelines of homework and our own understandings regarding the purpose of homework. So as part of my research, I read the book called Hacking Homework. And this was a part of my reading each week, and it aligned really nicely with the other research that we read as well. So it talked all about how the goal of homework was to inspire learning outside of the classroom, and studies show that right now homework is not doing that. So this book is all about reimagining what homework would look like. And as educators, we want our homework to be purposeful and meaningful, and this book was helpful while we were doing our research because it discusses alternatives to homework that fosters a love for learning. From all the research, we found that homework has no benefit for students and does not correlate to academic success. And all of the reasons we came up with at the beginning of our group were reshaped because of the research. So we reshaped our view of homework as a study group based on the research, and homework really proved to have no academic benefit for students except for choice reading, which we're going to get into a little bit more later.
So we developed the homework guiding principles, mindful of those of our guiding questions. And we use the NEA format requiring parent, teacher, and student responsibilities. Do you all have that? I guess you all have that.
They do have the document.
Okay. And so that statement captured what we learned from the research, from the feedback from staff, the school committee survey, the school council survey, administration input. We talked to some kids too, which you'll see later on. And we want to make clear that each of the stakeholders do have responsibilities. We believe that our homework procedure recommendation gives students, teachers flexibility, and also gives parents some support in helping the kids read. We're hoping that this is a shared vision based on all the feedback that we receive. We feel the principles are clear, that everyone has responsibilities for this kind of work, students, parents, and teachers, and that the guiding questions break these down so that all groups understand where their obligations lie.
So as Karen said, we've shared the statements with our staff, school councils. We're in the process of sharing with our PTO, administration team. We discussed what could we look at differently. We revised it several times. Sometimes it was just revising a word or two for semantics, and making something feel a little bit different and sound better for some of our staff members. And then the last part of our outline was to present to you, so here we are now. I think it's important that I want to read this again for you, because this statement really is the foundation of the guiding principles, and we feel it's very important. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to get into each section of the guiding principles. So the fundamental goal of our guiding principles is to promote a consistent and meaningful district-wide approach to homework that's guided by professional literature, current research, teachers' input, and family input. Importantly, the guiding principles reflect what we as a community of learners value to be most beneficial to our students as growing learners and citizens. All homework will deepen understanding and encourage a love of and curiosity for learning. Longmeadow Elementary School educators value strong partnerships with our families. We encourage family involvement and school connectedness. Our guiding principles strive to balance the needs of parents, families, and our students. We acknowledge the importance of play and free time for a child's growth and development, and while homework is important, it should not prevent children from taking part in a wide range of out-of-school experiences and critical time with family and friends.
Read this slide or
No.
just okay. So then we were left with the question, is there anything done at home that does correlate to academic achievement? And one of the most impactful studies that we read was a long-term study of the effects of independent reading on school achievement. And Donna asked me if I would just read the summary that I wrote, so that's what I'm going to do. Just be patient and bear with me. This paper presents an extensive study of the effects of independent reading on school achievement. For the most part, the study confirms the instincts of many educators that independent reading plays a significant part in a student's ability to succeed academically. The caveat here is the definition of independent reading as voluntary reading. Independent reading is reading students choose to do on their own. No one assigns it, no one requires a report, no one checks their comprehension. Therefore, assigned outside reading that requires students to read and report would be homework and would not be considered voluntary. There are 7 key takeaways. 1, the amount of free reading done outside of school has consistently been found to relate to growth in vocabulary, reading comprehension, verbal fluency, and general background information. 2, students who read independently become better readers, score higher on achievement tests in all subject areas, and have greater content knowledge than those who do not. 3, the amount of experience that 5-year-old children had with books was directly related to their reading comprehension at age 7 and again at age 11. 4, children who learn to read before coming to school and ones who learn to read successfully at school come from homes where they are read to often. 5, being read to does not in itself automatically lead to literacy. A real link seems to lie in the verbal interaction that occurs between adult and child during story reading. 6, light recreational self-selected reading provides motivation for more reading. Light reading later becomes a stepping stone to further, more complex reading. And finally, the single summer activity that is most strongly and consistently related to summer learning is reading. The clear implication in the report is that students' attitude towards reading is key. Teachers who want their students to read more outside of school would do better to inspire rather than to require them to do so.
So here in Long Meadow, we already have readers, and what we really want to do is we want to build on our students' current love of reading. So our focus is to build a culture of readers where students and teachers are making book talks and book recommendations, and it's inspiring other children to then want to read more and also share what they have read with others. So we talked about a lot, like if you picture these two scenarios, if you have one scenario where you have a parent saying, okay, I know you just did an hour of homework, but get the timer because you have to read 20 minutes and turn your reading log in tomorrow. Or if you have a family where, get that book you're so excited about that you keep talking about, all your friends are talking about it at school, and go to your favorite reading spot and read as much as you want. So which one is going to create a lifelong love of learning and love of reading? So that was really stood out for us. So prioritizing reading is going to be an ongoing endeavor throughout the whole school year. We've already started to brainstorm a list of ideas and ways to support teachers, and we plan to also educate families. And at the end of the year, we wanted to put out surveys for teachers and families and also students to see what they felt about how the year went and their love of reading.
Okay. So there was some research that said that some students need extra practice with things like math facts and sight words. Not every student. If the child already knows their math facts, there's no reason to send home math facts with every student every night. Like, okay, go home and practice your math facts. But I already know them. Practice them anyway. Well, there's no reason to do that. So it will be determined, by some sort of assessment at the beginning of the year which kids need to practice their math facts or practice their sight words, and then those kids would be encouraged to do that with their parents, to do their extra practice. And once they know them, they're done. They don't need to, keep practicing. They're all set. There's also excuse me, something popped up, so it's covering my notes. Here we go. So a lot of students. Classrooms review what they've learned in a specific subject area, especially in the upper grades, for an assessment. And they still may need some extra practice before the assessment happens. So it is teachers' responsibility to help the students with their note-taking and to understand what they need to know for their assessment. But it's also the teacher's responsibility to teach them how to study or what they need to know. So there we go with our two stakeholders, the students and the teachers. Having responsibility for studying, and it's certainly appropriate for them to maybe spend 15 minutes in the evening before an assessment studying for their test. And the other thing that we're hoping, not hoping, but we're suggesting strongly is that you don't have a science test, a social studies test, a reading test, and a math test the next day, or even within a week. Like, try to break those up. And creative endeavors, Val just talked a lot about how there's also different kinds of creative endeavors that we're hoping to, that a lot of teachers already know about, but that also we're going to give them a list of things that they can do to continue learning outside of school. And we also do have some fun things that have become school traditions that we don't want to get rid of. Our egg drops, our PowerPoint presentations, our VIPs, presentations, which is like an older version of our PowerPoint presentation, Native American houses, I think, and there's some machine exhibitions. These are important things that kids look forward to. I know when I taught second grade, and they came into from first grade, and they came and they said, "What do you want to do in second grade?" And they all said, "The egg drop." Like, okay, I guess we're not getting rid of the egg drops. So, but the way we go about assigning that would be very different than the way we've done it in the past. Send it home and have mom do it, and then the kid bring it in. So, or dad. Those kinds of things we will still try to keep. But again, very clear that each stakeholder, each group of people, parents, teachers, and kids have responsibilities that they need to follow.
Okay, so our next steps is to share with families before the summer break. While we've been sharing at PTO meetings, our PTO meetings are not attended by a large number of families. Sometimes they're not attended by a large number of families. So we want to make sure that that communication is very strong and set the stage for what the homework principles will be for next year. Growing a culture of readers will be ongoing. Our summer reading, we're doing many books, one community, rather than one book, one community. There'll be more information shared with the community about that very shortly. Back to school nights, our PTO meetings, the teachers will be sharing on an ongoing basis about the homework guidelines. It's going to be a process. And then we plan to review the guidelines in the spring of 2018 by surveying students, staff, and families and saying, where are we? Do we need revisions? How did this work? But certainly talk to our students first and see how they're feeling about it. And we have one more thing to share with you. I hope this works. But maybe it won't. I want it to work so badly.
There has been a lot of hubbub
That's
around
not it.
some of these days.
That's not it.
How much homework?
It's, let me see.
I like that she used the word hubbub.
Do you want me to override?
Yeah, will you override me and play it? It's just the students talking, and I want you to see that because we feel that it's a student-centered, the guiding principles are student-centered, and we wanted you to hear from them. Yay, Karen. Oh, they're lovely.
My grandchildren, which is why I'm retired. That's not what we're supposed to be. It's showing up on my computer.
Nick.
Where are you?
I just want to show you my kids. I'm sorry, the PowerPoint kicked out.
Oh, it did.
Do you want to try again?
Do you have the
I'm just
URL?
gonna
This is
mute
not
it.
your fault.
I
It
muted
happens
it until
every
you get it
meeting.
ready, so once you're ready to go, just let me know.
Every meeting we have this thing.
I think I got it.
I have the same problems at home, so it's normal.
Oh, he just muted it.
Yep, good to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here with the first graders here. What's your name? Can you make it big? What's your name? Margaret. And the first question I'm going to have for you is, what are your thoughts on homework?
I like math the best. Me too.
Yeah, I like some of it. Some of it I don't really like. Like sometimes I don't like the math homework, but I like the reading a lot. Yeah.
Well, it's hard and at school, and there's teachers that help. But at home, it gets frustrating.
I feel like it's unnecessary since I'm using to work in school and it's really extra work.
If it's homework that I like, I'll be happy for this direction. I feel that kids shouldn't have to do it because you learn all the stuff at school and you don't need to go home and take your time doing stuff like running outside or playing or reading books or
I'm Jenny Serafino. I'm a second grade teacher at Sunday School. Being a part of the committee has been very interesting and has opened my eyes in regards to homework. And that for the elementary school, it really doesn't provide much benefit, and they have so much structure and are dictated so much at school what to do. The engagement with reading with their own choice at home just increases their enthusiasm and their genuine love for reading. And ultimately, as an elementary school teacher, that's what we want to promote and have the kids just enjoy
and love all books.
Hello, what are your names? My name's Mateo. My name's Matthew. My name's Leo. First of all, what would you be doing if you didn't have any homework? I would be playing outside on my bike. I would be playing outside. I would be playing basketball outside. Be more active and have more time for sports and other activities.
Hi, my name is Valerie Fritz. I'm the reading specialist at Center School. I'm very excited about this new homework initiative because so often many parents come to me and say my child didn't have a chance to read last night because they had so much homework, and now this is going to put reading in the forefront and make it a priority, and we've learned from all the research how important that is, and it is going to benefit all of our students.
Well, I would read different points in the day that I wouldn't usually because of homework. Because after you do homework, you kind of feel like, oh, I'm done, and now I just want to relax. So. As soon as I started reading the Lightning Thief, I just got pulled in, and then really I just started. I just couldn't stop reading the book. Every book was a cliffhanger. Every book was a new adventure for the character. When I started reading the main story, I really got plugged into it, and I really got to imagine things in my head. And then my two best friends, Meg and Sophia, joined along with me. And it got more interesting because we got to imagine more. At the beginning of the year, I just used to read Magic Treehouse books and Jimmy B. Jones. And then, once Mrs. Higgins did a recommendation, and one of them was something close to Harry Potter. And I got into it. I got a few books of it, and I just really got into it. And now I'm on the 6th book, and I just love it. I first got introduced to this bunch of different series by actually her brother. It's called the Warrior series. Oh yeah, Henry's crazy about that. So what books do you like to read? I prefer fantasy, fiction, things with adventures and mythology. There's the Percy Jackson series. I used to study Greek mythology books when I was younger because I just
Really?
Are you sure thoughts and makes the comment with us? Probably see yourself on CSS.
There has been a lot of hubbub around homework these days. How much homework should my kid have? Does my kid have too much? How come they don't have enough? Here's the bottom line. There has been no research that shows any academic benefit to homework in the elementary years. There's no correlation between homework in the elementary years and future success for a kid. In fact, there's not even a correlation for homework in the elementary years and things like teaching the kid responsibility or teaching them how to take care of themselves and be responsible for their own things. There's no correlation between anything with elementary homework and the future. So what you want to do as a parent is encourage free reading. You want to encourage kids to pick what they want to read, love reading, enjoy it, and read regularly. There is a connection between free reading and doing better academically in future years. What do you do if your school has a lot of homework and your kid's in first grade or second grade? You don't want to see your kid coming home with more than about 10 minutes per grade level, if at all. And if that's happening, you have to be an advocate, and you've got to go and talk to the teacher and talk to the school and let them know that this is not working out at home.
So thank you. Do you have questions or comments for the study group?
Please. A couple. So I've read, but this was years ago, that when you're studying for an assessment, that doing it in increments, like every night, not just cramming the night before, was better to actually learn the material for the test. So you had said that if you were going to have assessments and the only homework would be studying the night before.
Well,
You didn't mean that?
I didn't really mean that one night, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then let's see.
I just want
Oh,
to,
sorry.
just to expand on that a little bit, underneath the teacher responsibilities, we talked a little bit about that, and one of the responsibilities is to ensure that review and study can be completed independently, and to teach and provide strategies
Right.
for studying.
That's
Because
good.
it's not just go home and study, but it's an ongoing process during the elementary years to help students understand, how do I study, and how do I retain information.
Okay, my other question is, so how do you or will you tell parents that their kids need to be curious and they need to be learning by exploring outside, not sitting home playing video games and losing their core muscles from lack of exercise?
Who wants to, someone want to tackle that?
Talk about it.
Okay.
So in our book here, this is kind of where we originally got the ideas. They even just had a sheet that said, it was like a weekly sheet, and it said, do some of these activities, and it was go play outside, talk with your parents, ride a bike, read a book, and it had all these different things, and they could check off what they did that week, or do yoga, or there were all these different options that kids could do. And then, like that Friday, they suggested having the kids reflect on something they did that week. And obviously, we're not at home with the kids to ensure that they're not playing video games,
Yeah.
but hopefully by giving them some ideas that they could do, or talking about, I think a lot of our kids are active. We definitely have some kids who are playing video games, but just encouraging them, even with a sheet like that, and them knowing they're going to have to reflect on something that they did that week, hopefully we'll get them.
That's a good idea.
Michelle? I'd just like to say thank you. That was so informative, and I feel like you did such a thorough job for us as parents, looking into what's best for our kids, and I just learned so much just sitting here now. So thank you for doing all that work, and I hope that every parent gets to hear what you did somehow, whether you put it in a letter, as you're rolling out the new homework guidelines, even that video that you showed us at the very end. It was just so helpful, so thank you.
Stephanie was first.
Oh, Steph. I just want to say, wow. I could have cried.
Yeah, I felt the same way, actually.
And, I think and Jess was one in partnering when we brought this to the table and reading all the research, and for so many things I feel alone in my research and like I have to prove something, and to hear this amazing collective group of people who did so much to come to this philosophy and recommendations, and it's everything that I could have ever imagined, and I literally was almost in tears because it is so. I don't even like to use the word progressive because it's research-based, it's evidence-based, but it's just something you don't see. And so I'm proud to be on the committee when you're bringing this forth. I'm proud of the work that you've done, and it's just an amazing testament, I think, to the school as a leader to show other districts how it really should be, and that we care about the students, we care about learning. I have 4 children who are 4 very different learners, and the 3 who are older love to read. And I see it, but I see how it's progressed, and the benefit that comes from it, and the knowledge that comes from it, and the joy that comes from it. And that's what learning is about, and the exploration, and what you take from books. And I just couldn't agree more with everything that you've said, but that it is in fact research-based, evidence-based, and it's just thank you.
Why wasn't this available when I was in school?
Good question.
I'm looking at you.
You were not in my.
I was not. I was in the class next to yours. No, this is, one of the big concerns that I had prior to this presentation, quite honestly, and really going back to last year when we had those sort of arcane homework guidelines, was about whether or not we would still be challenging students, especially, as we see the world beyond Longmeadow continue to become more competitive, more advanced, like it's more information based. It's, you need to be challenged, quite frankly. And this was incredibly reassuring, honestly, that we're not necessarily losing that aspect of it just because we're not asking people to go home and spend a couple hours doing some work in elementary school. And the fact that we're going to be, the focus is going to shift so much more heavily towards reading, I think is really reassuring that we're not going to be sort of like just saying, this is a nice place and we're not going to challenge you. We're actually going to be encouraging our students to think critically, basically everything Stephanie just said. So at a very minimum, this put me at ease with sort of the direction that things are going in. And so I want to thank you for your work and for educating me about what we're going to be doing. But I am still upset that I had to do all that homework. So, but thank you.
I was just wondering what the school councils and some of the other groups that get feedback from, what was the feedback positive? Did you make any changes based on their input, or was it really just in line with what you came up with?
I'll speak to Center School Council. They were thrilled. They followed the process with us. We were sharing, and I guess Marie and Beth may want to come up and speak to their school councils, but we did share the articles with them. We talked to them about the entire process, and they were just thrilled with it. And again, being research-based,
There really wasn't any feedback at the PTO meeting.
No, I mean,
they read it.
we talked a lot about the article that Suzanne referenced in reading, and how every teacher believes in that. The school council, we did. We read articles as well and did a jigsaw similar to this group, and so that was really enlightening for the parents as well to kind of see the research base.
So it sounds like a pretty positive
yes.
overall.
Positive, yes.
It was very positively received at Wolf's Lawn from our school council, as well as the parent survey that came back on the homework. That was the feedback that we received.
Good. So I was wondering if maybe it would be a good idea to put it up on our website. And that way, the next meeting when we vote, just in case there's any comments. But I've heard kind of the same thing, pretty positive comments about it. I'm going to call my parents after this and tell them I was right all along. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to thank you all too. This presentation was amazing. And I'm not going to repeat everything Stephanie said, but it does make me feel emotional. I was thinking that to hear you saying all of these things and sort of sharing this vision is incredible and inspiring. And I know that I had even my own questions during the process that I asked Donna about. Well, what about this? What about that? And I really think that what you've done here is really try to create a climate rather than prescribe sort of rules, and that's what's so beautiful about this document. And I also am grateful to you for looking ahead and wanting feedback as it moves through next year and folks adjust to it. I wondered, a couple of questions I had were, is there any way to capture a little bit more of maybe a statement or two that was in the presentation? These are more sort of just rhetorical questions. You don't have to answer them. I would love to see a little bit more of some of the statements about the diminishing return of homework, and that your research and your ultimate document was based on, because I think it would strengthen it. Maybe just have a sentence or two that this is really the foundation of what we're saying here in this document, because for people who don't see it, it might not come across as well. And I love the fact that reading is put on a pedestal, because that's where it should be. I have found that one of my children, who will remain nameless tonight, for sure, her reading has suffered because of homework, and it's always been so heartbreaking to me. And she will say to me sometimes, I feel like I haven't gotten a chance to read, and I feel like I don't love reading the way that I wish I did. So it really does hit my heart and hit home for me, because I also was a late bloomer with reading, and frankly, I think that when you're inundated at a young age with with homework, it's tough to really dive in and read for enjoyment, like you said, not because you have to or because you have to submit a paper. So that really, I value that so much. And I would even love to hear, a statement that says, reading is our priority as a community, period, just like that sentence, even overarching it, something like that too. That was just a thought I had as I was going through the document. But again, I want to thank you all so much for putting all of your time and yourselves and your brains and your hearts into all of this work. I know everybody on this committee is really grateful to you for doing it, and for really getting the conversation started in a meaningful way and bringing people together. So thank you so very, very much.
And I'd like to thank Donna for taking on this task and for leading a group of incredible professionals on this study. And I think it's a model for how we can approach so many problems of practice that we come across in our daily lives. And I want to thank the committee for giving us the space to approach it thoughtfully and bring it to a conclusion that is reflective of community input and reflective of the realities of teaching every single day. And so I thank the committee for giving us the time and the space to do that. And I look forward to working with the study group to kind of communicate this wonderful product to the community and work with the staff on its implementation is probably the wrong word, but work with the staff on its introduction is maybe a better way of saying it. So amazing job. Thank you. So impressive. And we appreciate you taking this on.
Just one thing, and no one needs to answer, but in terms of getting the message out to parents, I'm wondering if LCTV might help. I mean, the presentation was so wonderful, and people can go back, but it might be something that they can splice together in a way that, you would agree with and represents it. But you did such a great job, with the presentation and explaining it. It might be an option of helping parents, too.
Great
I
idea.
agree. Yeah, we really need to get that out there as much as we can. I think it would be great. Russ?
And I think if there is negative feedback, I know we're going to do kind of another survey after the year's over, but if any of us or administration or teachers have negative feedback about it, we can always talk about that throughout the year too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there will be some because it's kind of a drastic change, but I always tell my kids, if you're really paying attention in class, you don't have to study all night long. So, you can kind of save yourself the homework and the studying if you actually pay attention to your teacher, so, which they do basically, but so I think we can all work together to try and make that happen, because it's pretty clear based on the studies that it doesn't make sense to give them a ton of homework at elementary level, or like hardly any homework at elementary level. So.
Well done.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have student handbooks. We have the principals here. I'm not sure who wants to come up first, so I'll let Dr. O'Shea.
Sure. We'll go. Since we had the elementary teachers were on the spotlight there. In the spotlight, we'll start with the high school and work our way down. So, I want to just, as Tom's settling in, talk to the committee and the community about the handbook revision process. One of the expectations of this committee, one of my expectations, is that the individual school communities are involved in the development and revision of any handbook changes, and so I think the principals have been diligent about that, so I thank them for engaging their staff, engaging their school councils in the revisions that are before you tonight. And I'd also say that one of the things that we have talked about as an administrative team is having a more unified approach to our student handbooks. And so rather than having 6 individual student and family handbooks, the goal would be to have a single handbook that incorporates the language that really should be common to all of us. I think there would still be individual school information that we would need to get out to families and students, but certainly there's a lot of handbook-type language that is common across all of our schools, and so that is something that we will explore next year and hopefully bring that to you in a more unified format next year. I think it's one of those examples of where we can work smarter rather than working harder, and so Principal Landers, the high school proposed revisions.
Well, thank you. So I just want to thank the LHS Handbook Committee. So every year we have a handbook committee. It is voluntary. We ask for student participation. We welcome faculty and staff to join. I just want to acknowledge the people. So Paul Dunkerley, assistant principal who chairs the committee, Hillary Godin, art teacher. But as usually is the case, the majority of the committee is made up of LHS students. So I want to acknowledge Sarah Reyes, 9th grader, Allie Gallo, 9th grader, Gardner Olson, 11th grader, Tamara Poe, 11th grader, Taylor Dittmar, 11th grader, Cyprian Zialo, 10th grader. And they met 7 times, and 7 times between February and April, and we acknowledge and appreciate their work to meet after school to talk about something that is important but sometimes is a little dry, handbooks. We acknowledge all the people, but especially the 6 students who gave so much of their own time. I don't think that there are any really radical changes with the LHS handbook. I'll walk through. I brought you tonight anything that is substantive in nature. The first page covers the real change on the first item, and I think you have it in front of you. Really, we changed, the proposal is to change the arrive to school daily with to be in class no later than. That's the real substantive suggestion by the handbook committee. Underneath that is something that we brought to the school committee last year, and that was okayed, but we are proposing to give an example of. So last year I brought to you, and you voted to support it, was if a student fails a class at Long Meadow High School, an AP level or an honors level course, and they fail it and they have to go to summer school to pass that class, which is admittedly rare, we propose that that student would not get the 1.0 bump on his or her GPA. So that's the rule now. We just wanted to provide an example of that. We thought to help parents, to help students understand that it would look like a withdraw fail for if you took U.S. History AP, for instance. You could go to summer school, spend 3 weeks in summer school doing what you do in summer school. Generally, that's taught outside of LHS. The rigor is clearly not there. So you would pass, you would earn the graduation requirement, but it would be reflected on your transcript as a 527 U.S. History. So again, that's already in practice. We just wanted to provide the example. Second page, on page 31, more information, verbiage about the importance of being in school, importance of, as important as athletics are, being in school is more important. So the proposal coming out of the handbook committee is to you see the current language there, and the real proposal is to be in class by 7:48, and it mentions it unless you have a first block ice block and a parent note excusing. The second part is really the substantive change, is a face-to-face meeting with assistant principal. That is Mrs. Estradios. She is the vice principal in charge of athletics, giving one assistant principal that responsibility allows her to have consistency, allows her to keep notes as to if they've talked to the student before, and it puts the onus on the student to meet with the assistant principal by 1, and it also gives her some human override to say what happened. You know, why there are emergencies that happen. There are extenuating circumstances. This is really what's going on at Long Meadow High School already. We just want to codify it, and we want to make sure that we are putting into the handbook what we think is best practice, and it's been working well. I mentioned that in the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a real increase and a real improvement in decrease in tardies in the morning, and an overall decrease in missed classes. So it's working. We think we just want to be upfront and honest with parents and students that that's really what's happening on a daily basis at LHS. The bottom of that page is...
Tom, should we just add guardian for legal purposes? Do we have to have parent or guardian?
We
Or
can
does it not
certainly add
matter?
that.
I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know if it needs to be in there or not.
I know we have parent and guardian in many places. We can certainly do that. I'm fine with making that change, adding that, parent/guardian. The bottom of the second page, page 34, entry into the building. So we are wanting to formalize the fact that students can come at 7 a.m. We simply don't have supervision before 7 a.m. And adult supervision does amazing things for adolescent behavior.
Yes, this is so true.
So, top of page 3, the students on the committee felt strongly that we tried to stay away from changing or adjusting our dress code over the years, but they did feel strongly that the word excessive cleavage was particular to females and was sexist. So we're proposing that we say not to show excessive skin, which is equal to males and females. The students on the committee felt particularly strong under page 48 that the current language, abusive language, inflammatory language, fighting words, taunting, were kind of dated. So they suggested replacing it with use of abusive, inappropriate, inflammatory, instigating language, and that was their suggestion.
I like that.
The bottom of page 3, we put in a section last year. I need to talk to someone about we put in a Q&A section, and one of the segments in the Q&A is I need to talk to someone about a personal problem. So we're simply reformatting that. To be fair, we're going to change even these more. Mr. Devine, who is our adjustment counselor, is retiring, so those would be updated, but it's a reformatting of that section, our Q&A section. At the top of page 4, also at the Q&A, we're proposing adding a new section, or a new question. I experienced an accident in the parking lot involving my vehicle, because unfortunately we experienced about a half a dozen of those this year. So we wanted to add that and put some advice in there for students. Our proposal is to update all phone numbers with the to include the area code. Students thought that was important. We didn't have the 413 in there. And the last proposal is to replace everywhere with the word chairman appears in the book with chairperson. That's it.
Were you having more, there was an uptick in accidents in the parking lot this year, or?
It ranges between, in my experience there, it ranges between probably 0 and 6, but we had about 6 this year. Small, but we did, and we were answering that question more than really we wanted to. I just thought that was user-friendly and it made sense. So that's it. Those are the proposals for LHS. This was formally voted on by our school council, and it was also, we take a vote at a faculty meeting, and it was unanimous to support these proposals.
Does anyone have any questions for Tom?
I have a question just in general about the handbook. If there are other parts of the handbook that we think need some revision, we're just voting on changes for the next meeting, so other pieces of the handbook, when do we vote on the whole thing?
It's going to be on the agenda for next meeting.
The whole thing?
The handbooks. But
Okay.
I think if you have questions, I hope this answers your question. It would be good to email these two
about maybe
the
we'll-
questions, and
There's a
start
couple things that I wanted to bring up. One of them, maybe just offhand, in terms of the tobacco use. There's nothing on here about vaping. It says tobacco related. I don't know if that's something you're going to include.
We added vaping.
Okay, it's not on the link that I was given for your
It's also, I would just say that we added vaping to the actual policy section, so maybe you just want to reference the policy
Okay,
section.
because it says tobacco related, but I didn't see the.
It should be in the handbook.
In the,
If
under
it's not,
tobacco,
it should be,
but,
because-
okay. Just things like that,
We added vape pens and vaping and consequences of 2 years ago. But it might not be in the policy you're referring to, because we might have copied the exact policy as is. But we put it in there, we included in our health curriculum, we included in our...
I thought so when I
Yeah.
had spoken to Shelley on another issue, but I didn't see it in the handbook under the smoking tobacco. So maybe it's in another section.
I can find it and reference it, and if you email me, I can send it back.
Is the one on your website the most current?
It should be. The electronic version should be the most updated, absolutely.
Okay, yes, because I don't, if it's in there, it's under something else then. Okay, but just, so if I have things, I'll...
Okay.
John?
Any reason why you can't talk to a teacher about a personal problem?
You can.
I know you've got all these specialists, but is that the reason?
Well, I think that we want to give them their options.
So if you have a personal problem, I was sort of saying, well, don't bother your math teacher with that.
No, they can talk to their math teacher if they would like, but I think that we want students to know that they have support and they have options, and we want to remind them, they see their math teacher daily, or at least a few times a week, but we want to remind them that these people are there and these people play a particular role. We run these names on, this was a suggestion from our school council last year, actually, to advertise more of the people that are in the building, so we run those on our monitors. These are the people who go into the 9th grade health class and introduce themselves, because generally speaking, these are the people who either call students down or students have to seek out rather than report to every day, if you will. So we certainly, coaches and teachers and are great people to chat with too. It's just in addition to, and want to advertise that we exist.
Okay, thank you. And one last one. Is grammar going to count on these? For your last one, the frequently asked one, page 70. I experienced an accident in the parking lot involving my vehicle, question mark?
Oh, because it's a frequently
Shouldn't
asked
be.
question.
What do I do? If I experience,
Yeah.
can we clean up the grammar a bit?
I will clean that up.
And then you got a period after vehicles and then to the school, period. It's just,
I think it's a
it looks like someone threw this together but didn't really clean it up. It should be a model of communication, right?
Yeah, I think it looks like a period. It's actually a
Oh, yeah, I think they are commas, yeah. Not that nice.
I'll take a look at that. I think that's under the first one you raised is under the frequently asked questions, so that's the format they're using. But we go through and have a final read of all grammar, and I can certainly look at that section. You're talking about the last page, John, on the top of page 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Just another area that I can talk in between, but I'd like to talk about the tardiness, and I don't know if it's an issue, but as it's written here, you can only be tardy to school for a list of reasons, of which don't include or approval of an administrator. So I don't know how strict that is or not, but if it's not approved, you're given a class cut and potential loss of credit. So I don't know if there's leniency, but it seems like the list is personal illness of the student, bereavement, quarantine, weather, religious observance, college visitations. but no like medical appointment that had to be scheduled at that point or something. That's approval of an administrator. So those, it was a short list, and so it's a little concerning to me that you could incur a class cut if you don't get an administrator approval for a doctor's.
So you're looking on page 1, Steph?
I'm on the online. This isn't one of the changes. It's just the handbook in general. I think there's a lot of issues within it. I'm surprised that there were no parents involved and disappointed because I hear parents complaining about the handbook so much, but there were no parents involved in revising it, and I get that it's very dry, but it's something that I hear people complaining about, but we just had students, a few students involved in it, and it's not to discredit what they did, but the parents are the ones I'm hearing complain, and nobody was involved in it. So I really feel the whole document needs some serious examination, and so one of, there's all different parts.
A couple of things, and I don't want, there's so many ways you could go with that. I would say we're proud of the handbook committee that is faculty and students, because they live at LHS and they exist there, and our students are some of the most insightful people because they abide by this book, and they help to write it. That doesn't mean we don't take parent feedback. School council, we had numerous. Linda McCormick, Kathy Casale, Mia Nolan, and Mary Seeplick are our parents on our school council involved in the dialogue of this and voted on it. But we do have, it is a student handbook. If that's not something that the school committee likes in the future, let us know and we can do it differently. But it is what we've done, and we do think it's inclusive. And I said at the beginning, those 6 students and some faculty members spent seven meetings on it, and I think that their insight is good and important. The other part that you said, I just want you to know, is we think that what we're doing is really what I want to codify, because we're putting a human factor into that, and it's important to have students in school. It's important to be timely. I think we can all agree on that. But I do want to reassure you that if somebody has a medical issue, we work with them. What we try to avoid is students who say, I went to Dunkin' Donuts. We work with adolescents. They're great kids, but they're kids. And we are unapologetic about our students being in school, and good things happen in LPS and LHS. So we strike a really good balance. I don't advertise. I wasn't going to advertise what I'm about to say, because we work in the people business, but we work with people all the time, and we give kids breaks, and we get on the phone with mom and dad, and we say, I'm giving Johnny a break. He was late again today, but you know what? I know football is important. I know field hockey is important, but English is more important, and we're unapologetic about that. So for so many of our students are involved in extracurricular activities, and it's great, and for so many reasons that we all know, but we really are reasonable, Stephanie. We really are. We try to inform ourselves. That's why that personal face-to-face dialogue between the vice principal and the student and getting on the phone with the parent is so important, because then they can say, you know what, this happened at home today. Totally understand. I get it. I think this is an improvement from kind of having a long list of all these things get you out. We heard feedback for years from parents. I was a vice principal at the high school for 9 years, from parents who were coming really under pressure. Oh, my daughter told me I had to write a note and say it was for this reason. We talk to them. We have a conversation. We're human beings. We try to work with them, and we just prioritize and reiterate that it's important to be in school. And in life, you got to show up and be there. And but we'll work with you when there are extenuating circumstances. I know it's not a perfect book, but we're trying to make it perfect.
I get that. There's no medical on here. So if you're going to list, that's where I find you can't be dismissal. A medical appointment is not on there. Tardy medical appointment's not on there. So I look at a handbook, if you're going to have it, while there is some subjectivity involved in that line item that says approval of an administrator. if you're going to list the other ones, medical is not Dunkin' Donuts. So
Right.
I just
Right.
look at this as if you're going to have it, it is a policy that if there is a grievance that's a student has, you're going to go back to this and say, well, it's in the handbook. And that's a possibility, so if you're going to have a handbook, I like it to be all-encompassing and what it should be. If it's going to be subjective every time, then no reason for a handbook. So I think that...
I agree with you. It shouldn't be. You try to make something subjective as fair as possible. But one of the problems and one of the things about handbooks is that it's all over the place. I was chatting with someone earlier today, and I said that I think attorneys looked at the book 3 years ago, and they reformatted it for us, and sometimes I'm not crazy about it. But, I bet I can find it if you email me, but I think it does say in here, problem is, we're bringing you proposed changes tonight.
I have it pulled up.
And it kind of works in conjunction.
Yeah.
But,
I have it pulled up, but I think the stakes, and why I'm kind of, targeting, I don't mean to target you, but the stakes are high in high school. So when you're talking about possibly getting a cut or a grade change because of it, that's where I just want to make sure that it is a fair document and that if there is a grievance, you're going back to something that was fair to begin with. And I, as someone who will vote on it, have a responsibility because if I vote on it and there's a grievance and they go back to it, then I'll say, we voted on it, we found it fair. I don't want to be in that position and say, oh, I voted on it, but that is not fair.
I think a good suggestion for tonight, just listening to you all talk, would be for you to really articulate your concerns over the course of the interim between now and the next meeting, so that everybody sort of understand, because Tom only came in here tonight prepared, to discuss the proposed changes. I don't want to put him so much on the spot. I think I have concerns as well about some of the issues that were raised, but let's share information and then maybe, I hate to ask you to come to another meeting, Tom, but, if there are substantive questions, we could do it at the next meeting, but at least then everybody knows what the questions are or what the issues are there.
I'm happy to provide information.
Without you feeling like you're on the spot here tonight.
I'm happy to provide information.
And everyone gets their questions answered.
And I'm very, very willing to say that I think that even though no handbook is perfect, and you're right, we take a great approach to being reasonable, and if someone has a medical documentation, we work with you.
Right.
I don't think anyone could come in front of here and say we had a medical documentation, medically documented issue or appointment, and we didn't okay that. I can't think of one in 12 years, so I'm confident to chat about that.
But you said it's not on the list?
It's not on the list.
So
what I'm pulling up online for the handbook, and I think,
it probably needs some additional conversation maybe between the three of us.
That's what I think.
I'm hearing Tom correctly. It sounds like there might be other places in the handbook or perhaps in your own policy manual that reference absences and how we address and handle absences. So,
and I say this with full recognition that the handbook is a beast. And that it is.
Sure.
And so, and then it comes to us, at the beginning of the year, and it's like, okay, we've got to approve it. We don't have a great process, I think, for these handbooks.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So I don't mean to throw it out there. That's why I was asking, when do we approve it, and do we have time in between to have that discussion back and forth? So it wasn't as if I was looking for an answer tonight, but I think it is the process with these handbooks and how it comes to us and we approve it or not, but I think it needs to be an ongoing.
And I think for all of us, if as committee members, if you're hearing from community members, if they have some questions, it's great to get that information, and then we can feed it. I can feed it to Tom and his handbook committee, and we can kind of address it before we get to this stage. I think that would be so. But we can chat and figure out if there's something we can do to tighten that up.
I just have some grammatical type questions, which I'm going to hand to you.
Sure.
So you can just look at it and see what you think.
Sure.
I have to review these all the time, so.
Sure.
For the changes, I'll look at.
Okay, great.
I'm going to save all my comments for everybody else.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just want to briefly, for the purposes of the meeting, just say that Tom and I had a nice little discussion before the meeting, because I did also have some questions about attendance, because I think it's sort of along the same lines as the homework and what's evolving out there with research and what we know about sleep deprivation in adolescence, and what, you know, are our children coming to school at 7:48 wrecked? Are they not able to get up in the morning? Are they struggling with that? And so I really appreciate your answer. I appreciate the fact that you all take a very personal, individual look at every situation, because I think that anything we do as a school district, we can have guidelines and we can have rules, but it's a living, breathing document because we're dealing with people every single day. So I think what you're saying about the balance, it's always a balance, and I know that you're always, you know, thinking and judging and trying to make the decision that's in the best interest of the person in front of you. But that particular issue, I just wanted to highlight because it's something that definitely concerns me, because the research, and I'm not saying this to Tom, I'm just saying this to the community, that the research is definitely pointing to high schools needing to start closer to 8:30. So I hope that we will, as a country, as a state, be moving in that direction at some point. So I appreciated your thoughts on that earlier, Tom.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, you're off the hook.
Thanks.
For tonight. I'm just kidding.
So next is our middle school principals, and again, reiterate that the principals are bringing tonight to you the changes that are meaningful or substantive. There are other changes that were grammatical in nature or updates to dates and offices and people and that kind of thing that we didn't want to burden you with tonight. So tonight is simply an opportunity for you to take a look at, review the substantive changes. So,
hello.
Take it away.
Thank you. So these changes are ones that our school councils agreed on, our PACs agreed on. We get constant family feedback and staff feedback on our handbook, especially with the dress code, which you'll see. And we've had legal take a look at the dress code piece as well. So,
and one thing I want to add is that the Glenn Book and Williams, their handbooks are pretty much identical, except for I think we have cafeteria rules specifically outlined in ours, but for the most part they are identical. So that's why we were able to work collaboratively with these changes.
So I'm not sure how you want us to do this. Like, we have a current and we have a proposed, but we'd like to tell you why we are proposing a new one.
Sure.
So, why change is the question for this. So, as a middle level, we feel that the language should be more gender neutral, which is what you will see in the proposed dress code.
In order to protect our students, we need to make sure that the language is always up to date, so that we had our legal or lawyers take a look at it, so that any language that is needed updating was done.
We also felt that the language needed to be a little more student-friendly, meaning that it needs to show awareness of the current fashion trends and be as respectful as possible in working with that. I know that we were in this process when we're looking at things, we talked about, there's a school committee dress code, and we looked at that, and I'm pretty sure it said T-shirt tucked in trousers or something like that. So it's just evident that we needed some change in what we're doing here. So.
And finally, we really had in-depth discussions on the words disruptive and distracting. We felt that they were too broad, and to be honest, they weren't appropriate, and so we chose to remove them from this proposal.
So the things that that really stood out for us was that the student that's on our school council, we talked about this a lot. She's tall, and she really struggled with a lot of the things that we had, especially the fingertip shorts. So a couple of things that we tried to change in there was that, in addition to the 2-inch straps and the spaghetti straps, and if it's in our handbook, the teachers feel like they need to enforce it, which would make sense if it's in our handbook. But it's been a struggle for a few years, and we just felt like it was time to attack that piece. So one of the things that we're keeping in there was the strapless tops, more of a safety concern, to be honest. We do have students who wear them. I know, trust me, we know that they're in. We have about a good amount of girls that do tend to wear them, but they also wear them so that like they can be popped up. It's an easy fix for them, and they still look cute. So the concern for us with strapless and why it's still in there is because it's middle school. Kids are running around. They're, excited about the day, excited to see their friends in the hallway. They're running around, and that is something that we're very concerned with being just like pulled off, and talk about a traumatic situation for a middle school student already with all their developmental issues. But like, not issues, but more like a concern, this one over here. So that is still in there, and we did look at other dress code policies, and that seems to be pretty consistent, is the strapless one. I know it's in the high school one, not to bring you up again, Tom, but it
Tom,
seems
do you
to...
want to come up and...
It does seem to be consistent, so we do feel like it's okay to have that in there. The pants must be high enough on the hips as to not expose underwear or skin. Felt more like we wanted to be more gender neutral in adding stuff like that. The necklines must not expose the chest. I know that we talked about, you had, what was your language in that, Tom? Excessive.
Skin. We replaced cleavage with skin.
Right, so, and the necklines, so we got rid of the spaghetti straps, we got rid of like measuring 2 inches or 2-finger width, and just said that, we don't want it to expose your chest. So see-through garments should have other stuff underneath. In the legs, instead of it being fingertip, we just said mid-thigh, because the girls who are tall too are feeling like they struggle because their arms just seem to be longer, and they feel like they'd have to wear shorts down to their knees in order to be meeting the dress code. So
the problem is none of the girls' shorts, if we're speaking frankly, none of the girls' shorts, I had this conversation with Marty, mostly they don't seem to come that low when you buy them. They're...
The shirts or shorts?
The shorts.
Oh, the shorts.
Yeah.
Shorts are...
They're just
right now.
It's just a different world.
And the pockets now are all hanging out,
but
so it's...
genuinely, I don't know. I don't know where you buy shorts that are that long, because I haven't seen them.
And we totally understand that, which is why we tried to put language in here. And we also said that if there's anything that they're questioning, Bridget's the one that really they come to speak to, but, I'm in the office as well, so they can speak to us about it. And it's really, we have these in place, our proposed dress code, but we also said, that we talk to the kids and we say, we don't ever have a teacher address the students because it's embarrassing. We have them come to the office if we feel like there's something, but we just felt like we needed something just a little more,
Do you guys feel like that's something that you really can sort of stand behind and want to enforce? Because it is a little old-fashioned, and I'm not...
The dress code in general?
No, the mid-thigh short. I'm just wondering sort of like off the cuff, not in terms of what you do every day, do you really think it's an issue that needs to be?
Can I suggest that, I agree with you, it's a challenge, right, for any administrator in any school. Dress codes are always a challenge. I think what this does is it opens the door to a conversation between an administrator and a child, and so that as I look at the language here, it allows for conversation between an assistant principal and a student, and it doesn't necessarily specify if you do this, you will get, a detention. It's simply, this is what we're expecting, and it would generate a conversation between a kid and an assistant principal. I've always felt like there's conceptually 2 parts to a dress code. One is the language that deals with sort of modesty and what's appropriate. And those parts of a dress code are really handled well by school administrators generally, right? And then there's the second part that gets into the items that a student can't wear for legal reasons, or we can't prohibit for legal reasons or medical reasons or religious reasons. So it's sort of 2 components. And when you're in that first area dealing with modesty and appropriateness, that's where you really should have the kind of those nuanced conversations, I think, between administrators and children. I think I don't think there's no dress code police. I don't think that's the way we approach it, right? It's more about...
It's not, and I think we're very fair, and there's a lot of kids walking around that aren't in the dress code we have now, and would be more in dress code with what we've proposed, but it's I would say almost impossible to have everybody walking through the building
Yeah,
in complete
that's-
dress code unless they had uniforms, which I'm not saying Lime needs to do.
Yeah. But that's why I
it's-
want to repeat the question
Right.
that I had tried to ask earlier, which is, what do you, as the middle school principals who are on site, think about the shorts in particular? Do you find it to be a distraction, or do you find it to be an issue with learning? Okay.
I think we need to
That-
stop using the word distraction when we're talking about our students.
Michael, I think that
I'm just,
I need to finish my question, and you're out of order. Thank you. So if it's not, then I'm just wondering if we want to keep it in there, and ultimately it's up to you guys because it's your handbook, and But I just wonder if it's realistic and if it's something that's worth keeping.
Well, so we, as female administrators, I think it's sometimes tougher. I know 2 males is probably even
Yeah.
tougher. But I think having something like this in there is going to help with some of the issues that we have. There are girls that, there are, the females that wear the athletic shorts that, they do the little thing on the side, so like it looks like it's a lot higher. We've been pretty lenient with that. We talked to the faculty about it. We become more lenient even with this in place. This guideline in place. We've been lenient about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was, recently there was somebody where it was showing. I don't want to get graphic, but it was just showing more than it should. So if we didn't have something in here, they could come back and say, well, you don't have anything that says I can't wear this. So it's just a little more of a concern. Like, we do let the girls get away right now with the pockets hanging out of their shorts and certain things, as long as it's not showing undergarments or
Right, which is sort of what I was getting at, is
skin.
that it would be great to move towards that sort of language, I
Yeah.
think, it's maybe for next year, that really reflects what kids are wearing.
And here, too, it gives us wiggle room. It's
Yeah.
like legs should not be exposed above mid-thigh.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying, and, and the student that I'm speaking about showed it to other students, and they felt like it was just better for them to have something in this language than it was previously. So.
So our next change is our homework policy. We are reverting back to the 2012 policy, in which it is exactly how it appeared. And the one thing that we did add is that in the second part is students at Williams/Glenbrook are required to keep a daily assignment notebook and write down homework in each class. Homework assignments are also available online and on teacher portals. Also, you would input Google Classrooms or specifics like that. As mentioned on page 3, this is added. As mentioned on page 3, students are welcome to attend the homework room from at Williams at 7:45, at Glenbrook at 7:50 to 8:20 for Williams, 8:30 for Glenbrook, 4 mornings a week before for support. So that is the one change that we're doing to the 2012 revert of the homework policy.
So all the guidelines that we originally had in there that were drawn up are all taken
Coming
out.
out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no more like giving the amount of time and, the A through F that originally was in there before is taken out. So it's basically a language combined of the 2012 with like some other basic language, just about budget your time and.
Yep.
If I could, for homework, then there is no time stressed.
There's no time
Maybe an
stress, which is
hour,
what we had
2
talked
hours.
about, but we did talk about if it's taking your child, more time than you feel like, to reach out.
Is that in here, if you feel like it's taking too
Yep.
long?
Your parents' responsibilities, if students find that the work continually takes more time than the classroom teacher would normally expect, then parents should communicate with the teachers.
Well, I'm kind of concerned about the transition. If we're going to de-emphasize homework in the elementary level, at what point in time do they sort of get the word that they're expected to do some homework? Because they're going to get hit with it in the high school.
So being the middle child is not easy, as you know. I am a middle child. But in this district, it's hard too, because you do have those extremes of we have to be looking at what's coming at us and then where they're going, and the other places are just the opposite. So it is tough now that that's in place, because 6th grade, they start to get homework. So, we did talk about the fact that maybe, not that I want to take something else on, but I mean that the middle school has to look at something like this, but it is going to be different for us, though, because we're preparing them for the high school. So I think there's some more conversation to happen on that.
Did you just volunteer?
I did not.
I didn't think so.
But I think there's more work that could be done on that, but for right now, we took out all the stuff that says what they should be doing and the hours and the time and stuff, and
I think that's a good start.
in doing that, so.
Russ?
So is the intent to change the homework guidelines? How are you trying to lower the amount of homework or just make it more general?
Right now, we just took out what the guidelines were when we did that with Marie.
Yeah.
So that just all got taken out.
So you're still thinking about how you're going to do it?
Right. Yeah. So this is more about like budget your time, you know, it does talk about like, homework assignments may require reading or writing, it budget your time for long-term projects, and then just talks about how you can go to homework room in the morning and use your agenda books and the teacher portals and stuff, but.
Michelle?
I just want to ask, I'm looking at the online school committee packet, and it says Glenbrook. Is this the same as Williams for the students at Glenbrook are required to keep daily
Yes.
assignments? So
Yes.
everything
Yeah,
is
no, this
the
copy
same,
has
but it
Williams
just-
on it,
We don't
yeah.
have a scanned copy of Williams.
Yeah.
That's what I was confused about as well, yeah.
Same with the homework
Zap
and all of that.
Williams on that.
No, it was a middle school handbook proposed changes, and
Gotcha. So the-
Nicole's copy.
Got it.
And
They're
then going forward.
exactly the same.
okay.
Yes.
More or less. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Can I ask, I know that group projects have been assigned at the middle school level. Is there any sort of thinking around that or philosophy as to how that's done? Because sometimes in the past it's been assigned over breaks, and group projects have their complications.
I know that at Williams that we are mindful of vacations and long-term and to really encourage children to take the time off. It varies by classroom. It is really up to the teacher's discretion because it is their project in their classroom when they assign projects. But beyond that is definitely a possibility and a discussion that we would have to bring the teachers in to have that. But I can say that we definitely encourage teachers to be mindful during vacations.
I think the encouragement isn't always, it has been done, and I think that it's caused difficulties from what I've heard. So I don't know if it's worth thinking about for the future of including something on group projects, if there's something that is commonplace among the middle schools and how those are implemented in.
Thank you.
Okay, so extended absence policy for non-medical absences. So basically what we changed here was, it used to be, so the part that's striked out is it used to be for up to 2 weeks, and we were finding that this was a struggle for both students and teachers when it gives you that much time to be making up work, because then they're getting behind even more. So the offer there is to change it to look at the same number of days to make up the work as the number of days that they've missed. And again, we know that students don't make vacation plans, that their parents do. But if they're out for 3 days, then they'll have 3 days to make up that work. Because we also don't want those kids to get even more behind when they have that much time.
And that's mainly what this is about, vacation type situation.
Well, that's more like non-medical absences. So yeah, so it focuses more on, we say like, try not to make vacations during regular time, but if there's non-medical reasons for you to be out of school, like we're really, we have a lot of kids that are like big-time snowboarders and gymnasts, and when they have to be out for certain stuff like that, we're just trying to accommodate that, but we also don't want them to get behind on work by giving them too much time.
And also, we have kids that are very conscientious, and that when they do miss work, they want to know how many days they have exactly to make up the work so that they can plan accordingly. And I've received, everyone will receive emails just saying, how many days do I have to do this, or when can I get this to you? And this really just solidifies and makes it concrete that the students can understand that timeline.
And the time in here, too, the additional time required will be different in each classroom and for each subject area. So, it allows for the teachers to be a little more like, okay, I'll give you an extra day. But, right now we're saying that, 3 days is, because we don't want them to get, too far behind. So.
And the last change that we are proposing is that we change the language in the sentence from students who choose not to attend or complete such programs with promotion with exception will be retained, and we're going to change it to students who choose not to attend or complete such a program could be retained. It's really important to have this discussion with the parents and the teachers and the administrators as well going forward. It does say that the parents can and will be involved with the promotion with exception, but this just allows us to have that dialogue about the student's future and going forward.
And that the programs that's referring to the summer school programs?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, that is the summer school program that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Middle school principals. Okay, thank you so much for coming
Thank you so
tonight,
much.
answering
Appreciate
all
your
of our
time.
questions.
And then at the elementary level, it was simply the homework changes. There were some grammatical changes and edits and things, but beyond it was simply the inclusion of the homework guiding principles in your handbook. That was the only change you had.
So you can all go home. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Donna.
You're very welcome.
That was an awesome presentation. Really, it was wonderful. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have administrative reports, and the superintendent's report is first.
Sure. I'll be brief. I want to begin by thanking John Fitzgerald, Michael Clark, Liz Bone for their service to the committee, for their support of our work over the years. I had the pleasure of meeting John over 20 years ago when I was a overwhelmed rookie teacher here in Long Meadow High School, and I learned a lot from him and about the importance of our work and what it meant to be a social studies teacher, and I'll always remember that. Michael, similarly, met many years ago as a student, and it's been a pleasure to see Michael grow into this role as a school committee member and as a community leader, and I've appreciated the support. I know our administrative team has appreciated that as well. And then Liz, our time shorter together, but I certainly appreciate the support that you provided our administrative team, and ask good questions and support our work whenever necessary and possible. So thank you so much. You will be missed. In your packet is the latest round of LEAF grants. The foundation has announced 33 grants totaling $71,000. So we're really pleased and fortunate to have the support of the LEAF Foundation. You'll see in the list there, the spreadsheet, that it is a series of very creative projects that the teachers have submitted on, and I've always felt like the LEAF projects, they incubate and encourage a lot of creativity at the classroom level. So thank you, LEAF, for that. Quick update on the statement of interest. Had a chance to talk to Diane Sullivan, a project manager at the MSBA, and she said that they had received 83 applications to the core program, which I think is fewer than typical. They're often over 100, so I suppose that increases our odds if there's fewer applications. And it's possible that they would be in touch with us by the end of June if they wanted to come out to do what they call a senior study, and that would just be an opportunity for them to come out and learn more about the buildings if they don't feel like they have all the information they need. So we'll keep you posted if we hear anything. But Michelle had asked for that information, and I was pleased to follow up with Diane Sullivan on that.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, great news. End-of-year purchases, we'll talk about that shortly. Personnel notifications, we honored our contractual obligations to issue personnel letters to teachers affected by the FY18 budget or enrollment swings, and so those discussions have been had with all the individual teachers, and the letters have gone out. I will mention that given the way the FY18 budget is shaping up, I think we have an opportunity to hold off on some of the proposed reductions to library staffing. And so the elementary librarians did not receive reduction in force notifications. So that's great news. I think we'll want to sit down with our elementary librarians to talk about how we, can ensure that we're using their time effectively going forward. So we're excited about that. Great visit from DA Anthony Gallooni. He came to Long Meadow High and helped us with a distracted driving assembly, and could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium as the seniors were listened to people that had experienced drunk driving episodes in their family. They were responsible for it, or a family member was a victim, and so really compelling stories that the DA's office brought to us on that day. The Blueberry search is ongoing. We hosted 3 candidates here in Long Meadow last week. Amy Bostrian, Michael Brown, Rhonda Cohen came to visit the Blueberry community. They spent some time with the administrative team, and I'll be in touch with the community probably as early as tomorrow with next steps. And so I appreciate everyone's patience with that search. It has been painstaking, but I think the thought was that we'd rather approach it thoughtfully and methodically rather than rush to any conclusions. So appreciate the committee's involvement and support of that search as well. So that's all I have.
Any other subcommittee reports before we move on to Finance Sub?
I would just add that the Senate's in the middle of its budget this week. Probably some movement around Chapter 70 happening, but no news yet.
Finance Subcommittee met on May 9th, and we have several items to vote on tonight. So to keep the pace going, why don't we have somebody make the motion first, and then we can discuss the topic. I don't know if the Finance Sub wants to handle the motions.
I'll take them.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. I appreciate it.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve a 25-cent price increase to student lunches effective 2017 to 18 school year. Elementary will be $2.75, middle school $3, and high school $3.25.
Second.
So I know in your packet there are a number of food service related reports. The Finance Sub did receive an extensive report from Whitson's in regards to both this year's operations and next year's proposed operations. As part of running a food service program under the USDA, they provide this paid lunch equity tool where we have to calculate the weighted average of our charged meals and reduced and free meals to ensure that the paid meals are covering the share of programmatic costs compared to the subsidy we receive from the federal government. Currently in FY17, we are about 4 cents short of that analysis, which basically requires us to put in-kind amounts towards the food service program are non-federal funds, which we do with the subsidy we have to provide to the food service revolving account at the end of each year. So we did hold off purposely on not increasing the meal prices in FY17, knowing that we were close and that we would have to bring it forward in FY18. So we are proposing a 25-cent increase across the board for meal prices. It's been at least 3 years since we've increased the meal price for students, and I would expect this increase hopefully to get us at least through 3 years before we have to look at it again.
Stephanie.
Can you expand a little bit more? So you're looking at weighting the students who pay for the lunch with the ones who receive free lunch.
Yeah, because of the amount of money you get from the federal government in terms of the free meals, they don't want you charging for your paid meals a dollar amount that's less than what you're receiving for reimbursement for the government for the free meals. So they make you take how many meals you serve at each level's price and weigh it out to come up with what your average you're receiving from all of your paid meals are over the course of a period of time. And if you're too far below, you're required to increase your meal prices. I believe there's a maximum of 10 cents per year that they would require you to do that, but you have to close the gap to get up to that level of reimbursement that the federal government is providing.
So is it, Tom, they don't want you to use the federal subsidy to subsidize
Paid
paid
meals,
lunches?
correct.
So how much do we get per lunch from the federal government?
I believe it's about $2.74 is the amount that we receive.
Regardless of what grade?
Level, correct. They don't differentiate reimbursement based on the meal level that you serve it at, whereas our price does differentiate based on the choices. The high school obviously has a much larger volume of choices than what we can offer at the elementary level, so we feel that a higher price based on the number of choices that are provided for students here makes sense.
But it really isn't a weighting then if it's that amount. We were charging that amount, so we weren't bringing it. We weren't necessarily charging too little.
We were just under it for this current year. Our weighted, I want to say, was 4 cents below what they said we should be. And you can do that so long as you're willing to put in resources from local receipts, from general fund, to support that, to bring it up to the amount that you would be needed to be charging in order to equal the federal government's reimbursement rate.
And what happens if you're not? What happens if you exceed it?
If you're above the reimbursement, they're okay with that. They're okay if a district wants to put more money into it and even support offering a meal that costs more than, say, the $2.74 by using some of the funds you're receiving from the paid meals to support what it costs to offer a meal to all students.
And then if you fall way below, what happens?
Then you're required to increase it by 10 cents. I mean, they don't come out and check it. They look at it when they do their food service reviews, which are supposed to be done every 3 years. They'll ask you for the documentation. The federal government has a tool that allows you to go in and do your calculation, and then want to see where you fall and then what your meal price are.
Russ?
I mean, we sell more meals at the elementary level, so I think that's why the weighted number, it looks higher at those higher levels, but we sell less lunches there.
Any more questions?
So it's something we have to do, or we'll get penalized financially?
We could be cited, I would say, on a review of our program if the state were to come out and look and see that we did not take the correct steps to increase it. There most certainly could be some financial penalty from our USDA reimbursements. Although we have a low number than other communities, but most certainly could go that route.
The only reason I'm, picking this apart a little bit is because it will impact people who don't meet the free lunch. And so I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with with Whitson's and along the way before we do, enter into a price increase, because this will have, a significant impact on families. So I don't go into this lightly, knowing we have families who need the lunch for a variety of reasons, don't meet the criteria for the free lunch, and so I just want to make sure we're doing our job on all ends with Whitson's and everything that we're doing in terms of the cost that's associated with the lunch and the free lunch, and that this is something we need to do. So it sounds like that is in fact the case.
Okay, any more questions before we vote on the first item? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Michelle, the next motion for the Whitson's contract?
I move on the recommendation of the, I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the amendment to the Whitson's food service contract, extending the contract to the 2017-18 school year, and authorize the chair to sign the amendment.
Second.
So each year, we have to come to school committee for authorization to basically extend Whitson's contract. Next year's extension would be the 5th year and the final year that we can do that, so in next fiscal year, we will be required to go out for an RFP process. We'll do a formal bid for vendors to submit proposals, come in and do presentations. There's usually a committee of school committee members, administrators, parents who would participate. I believe Michelle, you were on the last one?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't?
I was.
It was me and Liz.
Oh, Liz and Michael are. So we'll go through that process again for FY19's program, but school committee is required to authorize the amendments to the contract for Whitson's to continue operating next year here in Long Meadow. In the packet is a draft of the amendment, proposed budget that was presented to Finance Sub for their review in terms of what they plan for participation increases. Food Service Advisory met and also has provided some suggestions on some areas they'd like to see some attention for next year, especially around marketing, and maybe some changes around offerings at the middle school level are two of the areas I think we spent a significant amount of time discussing with Whitson's.
But the Food Service Advisory Committee is comfortable with moving ahead with this? Do we know that?
Food Service Advisory did not necessarily take an official position on it. That hasn't necessarily been their role in the past. I think, I don't mean to speak for them, but I would say that I think they feel the conversation has been more positive this year with the responsiveness from Whitson's than in previous years. So
Okay.
I would say the general sense is that they most certainly are hearing some of the input and taking action on a more timely basis than in the past.
Michael?
Is that due to the change in management on the local level?
I think that's partially. People have different styles on how they approach things and prioritize. So most certainly could be.
But essentially, we basically have to approve this tonight, otherwise we won't have a food service vendor come September.
I think we would be in a very difficult position if we don't approve it.
And we've been there before, and it's been very challenging, and it was a very lengthy process. So, I'm supportive of renewing this contract tonight.
Does anyone else want to weigh in on this before we vote? Any concerns? Liz, nobody? Okay.
No, I'm
You're good?
completely good for renewing. It's, it's not like out there, there's this amazing food company that everybody wants, and we don't have it. I mean, they're all pretty much the same, but I would say that they have been very responsive with the changes that we've talked about, and we keep working with them. And
Well, that's why I asked, because when I was on the committee, that's when I saw some of the issues, so I didn't know sort of what has transpired really since then.
I think this year has been a very positive year with them. I think in comparison to other years, I think, at one point I considered asking Tom if we could look at other vendors with the changes that happened this year and everything. I think I feel comfortable.
Excellent. All those in favor? Thank you.
Also in your packet tonight would be a year-to-date budget report. So Finance Sub at our last meeting also received an update on FY17's budget. So that's included in your packet, although it is dated almost 3 weeks ago. So, but again, it's to just kind of give you a sense of where we are and where I anticipate things to go from now until June 30th. Some of it's a best guess on my part, trying to use trend data as much as possible. But along with that is also a request for some investment with some of the funds that we're anticipating having available at the end of FY17. So there are definitely some areas that I think that kind of align with our district improvement plan around social emotional health of our students, technology, and just kind of overall security of our buildings. So there is a page in there.
Oh, I see. Number 9, okay.
that outlines the various items that are being put in front of you for consideration tonight. And the first would be a request for investment in technology. With the consolidation of the technology under the schools back in 2010 or so, we have the responsibility of not only maintaining service for them, but also their equipment and hardware. And currently, there is not really a sustainable mechanism in place for the replacement of technology on really either the school or the town side. We have a little more fortune in that we already have a lease in place, and town meeting authorized a lease for some replacement for the schools. But the town equipment, and Nick is here and most certainly can speak more eloquently than I can in regards to it, but the equipment on the town side is upwards of 4 or 5 years. Some of it's refurbished equipment that has been handed down from the schools to the town to address their needs. There has not been a large infusion of funds for technology replacement on the town side for a number of years. And so the proposal would put forward funds to basically replace all of the hardware on the town side. I believe there's about 160, 170 devices, Nick, is that accurate?
Yes, that's pretty close.
Pretty close. Along with that is also some investment in school equipment. With the lease that town meeting approved only allowed us the opportunity to replace existing equipment. Tonight's request would allow us to expand the number of devices in our schools. It would provide for funding for up to approximately 2 Chromebook carts for student use at each of the buildings. So the figure that we are proposing would allow us approximately 300 or so additional Chromebook devices that we would distribute across the district. The numbers are ballpark. I think the total amount is what we would request that you approve. It might not be exactly 165 for the town and 100 for the schools. It might be closer to maybe 175 for the town and 90 for the schools. We're just getting in the quotes. We received one today that we're expecting one more tomorrow in regards to the equipment. So we'll have a firm number, but we don't expect it to be above the $265,000 figure. The next item, and I don't know if you have questions, if you want to do them item by item, or if you want me to go through the entire list and then answer any questions at the end. Happy to do it either way. So the next item is the FOSS, the elementary FOSS. So part of FY18's budget discussion was we advocated for funding for FOSS science kits for grades 3 and 4. If you recall, when we invested in this new curriculum last year around this time, we bought basically an initial setup for each grade for each of the buildings, with the exception of grade 5, where we did outfit every grade with each of the 3 kits that is required. We are hoping to expand that with funding in FY18's budget, which you approved, and that allows us to now move forward with purchasing the necessarily kits for grades 3 and 4. Ideally, this request now will give us the funding to provide the number of kits necessary for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. So every classroom will have the 3 different kits that are required as part of the curriculum, and won't require us to move them from building to building, which was something we had to do this year. Requires teachers to take time out to package them up so that they can be moved a third of the way through the year. So we're hopeful that you would be consider providing some additional funding and allow us to have a complete set of the FOSS science material for grades K through 5. The next item. Well, yes, but the budget will give us funding for grades 3 and 4, and we already have it in grade 5. So this will complete it all the way for all elementary grades. The next item is an emergency situation software. So as part of the Safety and Security Committee that met this year, one of the areas that, we talked about is working with our first responders and public safety in terms of training and communication. And this software is an opportunity that will allow for streamlining of communication from in the event of an emergency happening at one of the school buildings. It will notify dispatch and the 5 closest patrol cars to any type of situation. It also would allow communication to go out to district administrators and other school administrators not in the building where the event might be occurring, to notify them, so that if they need to take action, it really will reduce the amount of time in terms of their first responders being notified of a situation. I think police department is fully supportive of this. There are approximately 60 other districts and communities in Massachusetts that are engaged in this software. And when it was presented, it was something that we felt would be a benefit to us, and hope we never have to use it, but we acknowledged we didn't have the funding in FY18's budget, and felt that it was probably too important to wait a whole nother year to get funding in FY19 to bring it forward. So we thought it was worthwhile to at least bring forward for your consideration for funding.
Michael?
Just on this one, I know that the town is in the process of identifying a regionalized dispatch center, and obviously that'll be way more advanced than our current dispatch. Does this tie in with the E911 and the new requirements of the, I'm looking at Nick. Does this tie in with what's going to happen over at Westover? Is this value add?
I think, are we talking about the proposed equipment purchase for town medicine?
No,
sorry, CopSync.
Yeah.
I think CopSync is going to be completely separate than E911.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe you know more about it than I do, but it seems like there's still a lot of questions about 911.
Yeah.
So with the regional dispatch, what we're planning for as far as the phone systems and how they would interoperate with the different towns that would be located in that dispatch center, that happens completely separately from E911.
Right.
Understanding the state provides the E911 system.
Yeah.
We're responsible for providing like the auto attendant and the internal calling features in order to call into the non-911 number of the police station.
But when on here where it's set, when it says that it connects with the closest uniformed officers and then also dispatch, I guess my question is,
we would equip
does
them
that,
with
and it feeds into, and it will have the ability to feed into, sort of the next generation technology that's...
Well, I don't know if it necessarily integrates directly with E911, but what I think they're saying is if you purchase this as a community, we would install it on the officers' laptops,
Right.
we install it on the computers in dispatch, they would have it on their mobile phones.
Okay.
So by virtue of us having rolled that out, completely separate from a state
Right.
system.
Well, and so my question, I guess, is, and I think this is great, but if we're going to, if the town in the next 2 years is going to be moving to a regionalized dispatch center in Chicopee, and this technology is going to be installed on dispatch computers, are we essentially paying for something that other towns will have a benefit for, or a benefit from?
I'm not sure I follow 100%, to be honest.
Okay.
Even if we were to move to a regional dispatch,
Yeah.
this provides some benefits. If someone were to trigger it, first of all, it allows you to trigger
For sure.
it.
I'm not questioning the benefit. I guess my question is, if for instance, those dispatchers at this regionalized center in Chicopee, are the people who get notified in addition to the closest uniformed officers, are we basically saying that it's only something, like, essentially, I know this isn't coming out as clearly as I'd like, but essentially, are we just saying that we're going to put it on these and it's only going to be used for Long Meadow, or are we going to be, or is our investment going to be something that Chicopee and the other 5 communities that are part of this regionalized dispatch center are going to utilize, or is it going to be specific to Long Meadow?
It probably involves some discussion, but I think the billing is per school.
Okay.
So we would pay per school, but we can install on as many officer machines as we want.
Got it.
So anyone who would have the potential to respond to an event in Long Meadow, I think we would work with the vendor 911 to make sure that they're equipped to receive those alerts.
Got it. Okay.
I don't think, from my understanding, that would have any impact on the pricing of the product.
Okay. I just, I guess my sort of concern, it's not so much a concern, but my question is, if we're going to make the investment and it's going to be installed in, some remote dispatch center, is that going to be a trigger for the other communities to purchase it, or is it going to be something that, falls on us, or is it going to be, is there a way to shift the cost potentially to that dispatch center and the revenues that come out of it? I don't know. Someone will
I can't
figure it
answer
out.
it, but I don't, yeah.
I don't know.
I think one of the things too is that, remember that I think the pricing structure is based on how many schools you
Right.
have, and so, like your question earlier, I don't know if this is your main question, but would we be shouldering the...
Would we be shouldering a burden for other
for
communities?
right. Locally, I think Southwick, Tallinn, Ludlow, Hingham, Wilbraham use
Okay.
CopSync, and as Tom said, there's like 55 other communities in Massachusetts that are using it.
Okay, that's helpful.
Chief Stankiewicz actually was going to be here tonight. He's out of town. He had hoped he could join you, but he wanted to pass along that this is something that they've been looking at for some time. I think it's just now that we're in a position to move forward with it. The other thing, the literature that you have presents it as sort of an armed intruder response system, and it would be beneficial in that situation, I think, but it's also potentially a sort of a training tool for staff. The likelihood that we'll use it is very slim, right?
Yeah.
But as a tool to help us understand how we can respond to emergencies and how we can communicate real time to police, I think it would be really valuable. So even if we all agree that we'll never use it, and it's, we're excited to kind of roll it out to staff as a way to kind of institutionalize that flexible response to an intruder thing. So in other words, schools are moving away from that, lockdown, hide in the corner, pull down the shades, don't talk thing, and now schools are being encouraged to let teachers respond flexibly to intruders, and this tool would help us in that regard, I think. If it is, I don't know what the timetable in terms of executing the contract is. Do we have any? Could we bring it back next meeting, or do you feel like we're up against it in terms of that contract?
It might be tight postponing it 2 more weeks to try to get everything done for utilization of this year's funds.
I'm just concerned about some of the things I'm seeing online about the company, and I don't know how much I don't think the finance subcommittee got a whole lot of time to talk about it. I'm just a little hesitant based on some of what I'm reading online about the longevity of this company in terms of investing, and I just want to make sure we're making a good choice. Because they are saying in the news that it is a risk, the business is a risk in terms of an investment. So I just want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row, and because I love the concept. I'm 100% on board. I just want to make sure we're...
Yeah, the only piece, it most certainly would be an annual renewal, so we're not locked in at any point to not get out of it. There's no long-term contract.
Can I ask a question? If we adopt this, it would be to get a more rapid response in case of an emergency. That would be the theoretical
Correct.
Goal.
Correct.
And now you're also talking, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but about a regional plan. Well, if we have this, why do we need a regional plan? Or flip it around, won't a regional plan actually slow us down in terms of, getting response?
Stephanie?
Just in what I'm just reading about it, I think that for me, and I don't know anything more about this company, but what it sounds like it would offer as a benefit, because we're 9 square miles, it doesn't take much. But what it does, what it's looking like is if you sent an alert, all staff would be alerted. So it's that issue, you're not going to put over the loudspeaker, but each staff on their device would be alerted to what's going on in one classroom. And I think, reflecting on past incidents, that would be a beneficial improvement. So there's no contract year, it's just year to year.
Annual subscription.
And it could, is there a history of it, they got you at 9,000 the first year, next year
It's going to go up.
15.
They did say that. They are cutting rate down from what they normally charge. I did ask that, what's year 2 going to cost? And it will go up to, it's $1,800 per building. So it's going to go up a few $1,000s compared to this first year's cost.
Mhm.
But my feeling was, at least come FY19, we can plan for that if we decide, it's something we still want to engage in.
It doesn't lock us in.
It doesn't require us to sign any multi-year deal. I just want to add on to what Stephanie was saying. Not only does it allow for notification, it also allows for like a two-way communication, so that information can be shared back and forth from individuals within the school where the incident may be occurring to law enforcement. Whereas now it's a 911 call from an office where they might not necessarily even have eyes on the situation. And it communicates that, so if you're in a different area of the building, it helps inform you. You might be able to take some action, different than what you would with more information that's available to you. So it seemed like, and John, to your point, the response time, law enforcement says the amount as much time you can cut off of the response will help save lives. It just seemed like a tool that most certainly would help contribute to getting information to the first responders as quickly as possible.
I think the tool sounds great. I think we need more information about the company if we're going to kick 10,000, because this is concerning. I think that everyone needs to see this information. That's my opinion. The company sounds like it's a mess, but the technology sounds exciting and good.
Does it work through cell or Wi-Fi or?
Yeah, it works through Wi-Fi. You would get notifications both on your computer and your mobile device. So you might have somebody doing traffic duty right here on Bliss Road, who is the closest law enforcement official. So they would be notified that there was a situation going on potentially at a school and could be the first one on site.
And the app how secured is the app on each person's device? It's not.
On the individual staff person's device to send them the notice?
Well, it's not something like, anyone could have. There's got to be some security around.
Yeah.
So when it's installed, the idea is that you would roll this out to all of your staff devices, so all of the laptops, and they'd also be encouraged to install it on their personal cell phone. They would get a small icon in their system tray, kind of near the clock, that they could click discreetly in the event that there was an emergency. It does start a countdown, so if it was clicked accidentally, they have a moment to dismiss it if it was an accidental click. And then if they fail to do that, it sends an alert out to whoever we designate. So we could say if a teacher at one of the buildings presses the panic button, I want you to alert all the principals, the superintendents, people in central office, dispatchers, and all of the officers in their cruisers. So they would get a notification on their phone and on their computer that someone's hit this button, they're located in this room, in this building. And what it also does is it then opens up an alert on all the other people in that building, or whoever you designate it, so you have some control, so that they also get notified that someone's raised an alert, and it also opens up a chat room that anyone can participate in, including the officers. So one of the ways that this seemed to sell itself, I think, was the traditional phone system does not respond well to these kind of emergencies. As soon as something happens, especially nowadays, you have students taking out personal phones, every parent starts calling into 911, what's going on, what do you know, what can you tell me? And they can only handle so many calls at once before it just stops accepting incoming calls. So the idea with this is, how do you get the people who are responding to the emergency the best information that they can get to make the most informed decision? So the idea is, you have that chat window, you can say, there's an intruder who is walking down hallway B, or I have a student with a medical emergency, or something like that. So it's another means of communication, and it meets people where they are nowadays, which is on their personal devices, on their smartphones, on their computers.
I just from personal experience with having to call 911 on a cell phone, it's you get routed because you're at a main site that you got to ask for your town, and then you get it, and it takes a long time. But also, just in terms of safety, I mean, there's so many benefits, I don't think I need to go through them. But do we have some reviews of schools that have used it as far as how they have found it? Do they do practice runs? Do they do anything?
So that comes as part of the introduction. They would be on site with us, I forget how many times per year, but they would come to the district to help us do some drills with the software. I know that there's at least once in New Hampshire has adopted it for all of their schools in the entire state. So there may be some financial concerns that we should probably learn more about, but
Yeah, I just think we maybe need to step back and get the information.
I think there's so many districts that are well into their experience with this, but.
Do we know which districts?
Locally, well, there's like 55 in the state, and we could get that list, but
Okay.
locally, Ludlow, I believe Southwick, Tottenham, and Wilbraham have used it with success. I think as a training tool, frankly, that's where a lot of the benefit comes in, and we would want and expect that to be part of our annual practices, like using this. You know, that would become part of our annual drills. There are some school committees that, as I understand it, have policies around the number of times that schools are expected to exercise with CopSync.
Michael?
So this has been vetted by Finance Subcommittee, correct?
I mean, it was presented as part of this request. There was a presentation.
And there was a recommendation to adopt. It was vetted by the Chief of Police.
The chief is fully aware of it, supported it. Last year, we didn't have the funding. They came out and did a presentation, myself,
But generally,
Marty.
the chief law enforcement officer and the community supports this technology.
Yes.
I don't, and there's 55 other communities across the Commonwealth that are utilizing this, and we're talking about a 1-year contract.
Yes.
And the total contract cost is what? It's
$9,900.
So we're talking a little bit less than $10,000 for something that could be the difference between, quite honestly, life or death, which we hope is never the case. So I think that we need to vote on this tonight. I think delaying it obviously makes it hard to purchase, especially if we want to get it installed as soon as possible. And I move the question.
I'll second that.
Russ?
Well, if the
Oh, we have to
question's
vote,
been
sorry.
moved
We have to vote on.
and seconded.
Yeah, then we have to vote on whether we're going to move the question.
Correct.
So all those who are in favor of voting on,
Well, Tom hasn't even gotten to the other two, though.
but it's been moved and seconded, so we have to vote. So if you want to vote immediately on this motion, you need to vote yes. and
How
if
about
you
this?
Don't.
I will withdraw my motion and make a motion that we adopt the emergency situation software for $9,900 and then allow Tom to go back to his report at this point in time.
So what's your motion?
Well, I'll second that one.
Michael, what's
I
your
move to take the emergency situation software, CopSync, out of order and to vote on it for the total cost of $9,900.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to vote? The question has been moved and seconded regarding whether we want to vote on this as a separate item from the end-of-year fund requests that have been presented. Do you want to speak to it, Michael?
Well, I think that I have sufficient evidence that this was a vetted project, and I think that some hasty research in the middle of a school committee meeting shouldn't be the difference between us adopting something that the chief of police is asking for, and tells us that will be important to improving student safety and the safety of the staff in our buildings.
Anyone else? Stephanie?
I'm comfortable with it, and given the number of schools that are using, that it is a 1-year contract, and that I think that it's invaluable, not only in the most extreme of situations, but in also threats that happen and how we operate in a school, so as to act in a way that children are not fearful and that all staff know what's going on. I think it has multiple benefits, and it's worth rolling it out over the year and seeing how it goes, but I think it sounds like it's going to be a good tool.
Tom, can I just ask you the time frame question? Can we just go back to that really quickly? What did you say if we waited until, what was the disadvantage if we waited until the 14th? Would the price be at risk that you had secured?
Yeah, some of the discussions I had with the company when they came out and they gave us their proposal was, listen, we're looking to move quickly. We had a proposal coming.
Yeah.
Had to get authorization from the town that they would support use of the funds for something for next year. So, so I think the pricing was based on being able to get confirmation from the committee to support next year's enrollment.
But you feel like June 14th would?
I told them I would know tomorrow whether or not, I'd be able to tell them tomorrow whether or not.
We don't really know. Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, so my hesitation on this is that I think it would be good to talk to other communities that have it in place to see what their experience is. Like I said before, I think the concept is great, but it sounds like the company's having a lot of problems, so that could be an issue. I want to make sure that we have good information before we make a $10,000 expenditure. And I don't ever want to rush a vote on something if we don't feel like we have all the information. So that's my only hesitation. It's nothing against the program at all, and the concept of it. So I would just, for me tonight, I'm not gonna vote for it because I do feel like we need a little bit more time just to make sure we're making the right decision. But again, I think it, I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts.
Well, I guess can I ask,
Yeah.
Marty, you mentioned some districts that have it. Have you talked to them at all about anything, or?
I've talked to the superintendent in Ludlow about
Okay.
their experience with it. I think they were one of the first districts locally,
Yeah.
and they like it as a tool. That it's really increased the cooperation between police and the district. So that part of it is kind of I guess a latent benefit, an unexpected benefit. And I think that this would do the same thing, because the implementation of it, just the implementation of it would require a lot of conversation about our safety protocols and how we respond and how we're going to use this tool. And I wouldn't even want you to be under the impression that once we buy it, we're up and running. It will take some time to roll this out thoughtfully. But I have talked to Ludlow. They have found it to be really beneficial. They haven't used it. No community that I'm aware of has used it, but they have found it to be beneficial as a training tool.
Wait, they haven't used it?
I'm not aware of any community that has used it in an actual safety event.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't aware that you had spoken with the superintendent in Ludlow when
Yeah.
when you and I spoke.
Right. A while back. I'm not in conjunction with our interest in it right now, but going back a ways.
And
I
these
just texted Todd to see.
Okay.
And these other districts have had it for a couple of years, or?
Hampton-Wilbraham adopted it last year. I believe Ludlow's had it for a few years. Southwick Talent, I'm not sure how long they've had it. But, that's something, I think if we were to move forward with it, I would want to learn more from other districts about their implementation.
Yeah.
What's worked, what hasn't worked.
Right.
Well, you can always ask around before you actually sign on the dotted line tomorrow, so.
Sure.
If you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, if we can give authorization pending, that you feel comfortable with the feedback from the districts and the article that I'm going to send you, a couple articles. I'm comfortable with you making the decision. Okay. Want to move the question? Yeah?
I just want to vote.
Yeah.
Celtics are on and we're missing a lot of it.
I offered to put it on. All those in favor? Okay.
So there are two more items on the list. One is an investment in some movement sensory tools. Leaf has been very supportive of kind of getting this discussion started in the district in funding some LEAF grants over the last few years. And so we took an inventory of what our schools have and what they might like to see for additional equipment and furniture. And so included in your packet tonight is a list of items that they have requested. The total is just under $50,000, and they range from standing desks to wiggle seat cushions to TheraBands to Flex. I'm learning a lot about movement and sensory tools. So, the sheet you have is kind of a summary of all of the locations in terms of their requests for additional material equipment in this area. And the final item is for some equipment for stripping machines. We piloted this machine this past year over at Williams. It is used to help strip wax off of the floor. And when you think of the old stripper where you have to put the stripper down, run the machine over it to pull it up, and then go back and wet mop it up and go over that a couple times, this machine is kind of all in one, where it allows you to use water in a liquid to help strip and saves a tremendous amount of man hours. Williams gave a demo to the other 4 buildings where they still strip floors, and they're all looking forward, hoping that they get this to be able to use it this summer and save on some of the labor that goes into getting the floors prepped for next school year. And the final item that's on the list, it would be some carpeting, although I don't have a final number. It's something we've been talking about. Dan is still trying to work out the numbers for some carpet replacement that we talked about for the Glenbrook band room and the auditorium runners and down in front at both middle schools. So unfortunately, I don't have that number for you for tonight. But I did want to note that on the stripping machines, the price that I have, the amount that I have listed was a guess on my part. Dan needed to go back, and it is $15,015 instead of $30,000. So it's half of the cost, and I was ballparking it off of what his recollection was that the one machine we purchased was, but it was much less expensive than what he thought. So that amount would be $15,000. So based on, I'm not sure how you want to vote it, if you are taking them in total less the software which was already approved, the new total would be $355,000. Unless you're
we
going
can just vote on the whole thing, it's fine.
Yeah, I wanted to give you the revised amount though, since you already
Right.
approved the software. So $355,000 would be the new total.
I lost track. Do we have a motion for this, for the full enchilada?
I don't believe we
I didn't think so.
do.
Can somebody make the motion? I move to authorize the end of year fund, the FY.
Well, we do it. I move to authorize the use of FY17 general fund in accordance with the document titled FY17 end of year fund request dated May 23rd, 2017.
In the amount of 355.
As amended.
Both work, yep. The amount of $355,000.
Okay.
Which does not include the $9,900 for the software and the revised amount for the machines.
Any questions before we?
Can I ask a question? Is that, and that would cover the carpeting as well?
It does not, because I don't have a number for that. So if I receive something, I might come back. I might come back and ask.
I'll let the carpeting go at the next meeting.
Was there an agenda item for who requested what for that movement?
The details of that breakout of that sheet?
Yeah.
No, but I have it.
Okay, I'd just be curious to see it, not that it impacts the vote, but
Okay, I can share that with you, send you the breakdown.
The weighted vests you were wondering about?
Well, they'll wiggle. There's a lot. It is in my packet. I couldn't find it online. I don't know.
Not the breakdown by school, though.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just.
Right.
Yeah.
I can send you something.
Okay.
Russ is gonna hurt me if I
I'm
don't
sorry,
move the
I'm
vote
just-
here. All those in favor? I'm physically afraid for my life. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Yeah.
Moving along, the committee also usually authorizes end-of-year budget transfers, so unfortunately, our budget doesn't align currently with these requests, so we most certainly would have to move funds from lines that have money available, and instead of having to bring those back to you, as that information might not be known until July or so, school committee, in accordance with a policy DBJA, has authorized us in the past, the superintendent, to approve end-of-year budget transfers in accordance with the thresholds laid out in that policy.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee and as specified in the School Committee Policy DBGJA that the School Committee grant authority to the Superintendent to approve the necessary budget transfers between munis budgetary lines in order to close the FY17 accounts.
Second.
Second.
Anything from the finance sub, anything else on that before we vote? All those in favor?
The revenue sharing concept, so in the recent town meeting warrant articles, there was a caption in regards to the FY18 budget and some reference to a concept that was established and used in FY18 to determine how revenues for next year's budget would be shared. And I think there was some concern that it wasn't necessarily a concept that has been vetted through either finance sub or school committee. It was something that was floated, but not necessarily adopted by this committee.
Right.
And I think we wanted to make sure that it was clear that this isn't necessarily something moving forward. I think we were fortunate in the collaborative effort in FY18's budget process that the numbers kind of aligned naturally to the concept that was brought forward, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's something that is going to be, I think, an approach that we'll be able to adopt every year. So I think it was just something we wanted to make sure was brought forward and stated, I think, purposely for the record that every year is a different challenge when it comes to the budget, and I think it's hard to predict how things will play out and what needs may come up.
Russ?
So basically what happened in a meeting with the finance committee, the town's finance committee, it was kind of an aside that was thrown out, by certain individuals at the meeting that you could do something like that, where you revenue share, basically the school gets a percentage, every department gets a percentage of the budget split out. And that was it. There was we never agreed to anything. The committee never even talked about it. Finance sub never talked about it. So I just wanted it to be clear on the record that that's not something we've agreed to do in the future.
Okay.
And that this year, it was just happenstance that it happened that we were kind of within that formula.
Okay.
But this year was unusual, and I don't expect, we probably couldn't even meet that formula if we wanted to in most years, because we just had some unusual things that allowed us to really reduce our budget, but those things aren't going to happen frequently, especially the special ed, so.
Okay, thank you for that update.
And the last item is the finance subcommittee. Liz came to speak. We had goals of the energy task force in terms of energy consumption and some goals that they set forth in terms of reduction and moving forward with some concepts of solar and so on. And one of them is an appropriation of $2,000 to be used towards looking at ways to reduce energy consumption in the schools. And I think Finance Sub just wanted to make sure that it was reviewed, and they did recommend it. And Liz was there to answer any questions.
Does someone want to make the motion? Russ?
Did we actually vote to recommend, or just to bring it to the committee?
I think we voted this one. I think we had some consensus on some of the other items down below.
Oh, okay.
Which one are you talking about?
On the energy. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I mean,
We didn't vote. I think
We
there
didn't
was
vote it?
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't have it that we did, but I don't.
Yeah, I don't have my notes.
I think the bottom line is, I'm not sure either, but I'm fine with recommending it. I just can't remember if.
And I would just take that language out then,
Yeah.
recommended by Finance
Yeah,
Subcommittee
yeah,
if
it
our
doesn't-
minutes don't reflect that, so.
I mean, I think it's a good idea, and I think, in particular with the solar opportunities, I think we should pursue those. And I know Liz has done a lot of work on it. I probably will continue to do a lot of work, I bet.
I will. I'll
But
stay in that committee.
I do think it's something we should really look at carefully, because it makes sense both for the environment and also from a budget perspective, it makes sense. So it's one of those few things where we can make some changes that would be good in many respects. So I do think it's a good idea.
So we still need a motion. Oh, we're not. You're making. We need a new motion then on the recommendation of the. Is this not your motion, Tom? I mean, are you recommending?
We can just.
Yes.
Okay.
I will.
Well, we can just move.
Well,
I'm happy
I
to
think we
recommend
recommended to bring it to.
Who's
school
recommending?
committee. We recommended that school committee.
There was consensus
Right.
for the goals
Yeah.
in support of them.
Yeah.
So should we amend the motions to just say that
Yeah.
I move that the school committee approve the energy task force goals as presented in the document
Yes.
dated, it's in my hands, it's over here. Dated,
Looks like
today?
December 9.
I don't know, agenda item number 9. an energy reduction plan from December 9th, 2013.
Just as presented.
As presented.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Did you get all that in the middle of that thing?
The mumbling part too. All those in favor? All those in favor? Great.
I just want to,
Yes.
I just want to thank Liz for this, because this process of this energy task force began, like 4 years ago, with you, me, and Kim King walking around buildings at night. And I know how much work has gone into this. I know how many hours and days and months you've spent with Marie Angelides and everybody else to get this thing through. So I just want to thank you, because this wouldn't have happened without your determination, and it wouldn't have happened if you didn't keep on it when it was very easy at a lot of times to give up on it. So.
You're welcome. Thank you, Liz. Stephanie, are you awake? You're up.
I'm always awake. Well, there's not much to say. They were posted. So you want policy sub?
I guess somebody can just, yeah.
You want
we
the
need
motion?
Yes, please.
I move on the recommendation of the policy subcommittee that the school committee approve the revised policy JKAA, physical restraint, as presented.
Second.
Any questions before we vote? Comments, concerns? All those in favor? Thank you.
I move on the recommendation of the policy subcommittee that the school committee approve the revised policy KDB, public's right to know, as presented.
Second. I just have a question on this one. The language in there about complying is at our earliest possible convenience. Is that council approved? Because I know that the public records law has changed in the last year, and I just want to make sure that any information that is requested is in compliance with that law.
I want to say this was taken right from MASC.
All right, then I'm fine with it.
But it's been posted. I don't think we did anything on, would you like me to look before you vote?
Well, this just says that we'll do it expeditiously.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just wondering, would it
Which
be...
has to mean, and within the time limits of the law, we would have to do that.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like an unwritten thing. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do it, that we're like, at a minimum, it's like codified, that
Right.
we're, that we reference the new updated law, which basically just makes it harder for public records requests, but that's...
Do you want to pass for a minute? We can come right back to it.
Yep,
Yeah,
come back.
okay, why don't we just pass?
Well, I think it's...
Is it
Honestly,
fine?
I would just add one quick line to say, in accordance with whatever the general law is. I mean...
Well, I think Stephanie wants to be sure, though.
Well,
It's probably
I'm
at the bottom,
pretty
right?
sure it was just taken, but I'm checking. Do you,
I don't have
Okay,
an
I'm-
issue one way or the other. I just raised it as a issue.
did you get that changed, Diane?
You do have the legal reference at the bottom.
So that's
of the
probably
policy.
it.
I don't know if that's sufficient.
Okay, do you want to put that in? Do you want me to check it online? I can do either one. I'm looking online right now.
Why don't we just add the citation to the law immediately after that sentence and call it a day, instead of wasting more time talking about it.
Did you get that, Diane? Yeah. Okay.
So I move to amend public's right to know to include the legal citation following the word expeditiously in the second paragraph.
So you could simply say per MGL.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, because I have it pulled up, but this MASC was,
Hold on a sec, we just need a second on the motion, I'm sorry, Stephanie.
Second. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry. Can I talk?
Yep.
So that change that you're talking about came about when?
Last year.
So this was updated October 2016. I mean, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So,
It's mostly semantical, so.
But I was just looking, and this whole thing was pulled from MASC.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Which we might want to note on there, but, okay. But we vote.
All those in favor
I think we only approved the amendment. We need to vote on the actual motion now.
Do we want to approve the whole thing now?
Oh, no, never mind. We voted on it as amended, yeah.
We did?
Diane, do you have everything you need? I just want to make sure. We have the superintendent's evaluation you have in your packets. There's a summative report that's been provided by Diane. Thanks to Diane for all the hours of work she put in.
Thank you.
Typing all this up and putting it all together. The committee, I know everybody really, really appreciates your work on this. Diane, thank you. Does anyone want to say anything about the evaluation before we move on?
Are we going through the evaluation?
If you want to say something, if any member wants to speak on it, certainly you can.
Okay.
Michael?
Well, first, I think it's important that the public know that in his evaluation, the superintendent met the progress towards goals on professional practice, student learning, and district improvement, and that he was ranked exemplary in terms of overall summative performance. I think that it's important the community know that the superintendent is an exemplary one, and I'm proud that he's here. And if I can, I know the Celtics are on, so I apologize, Russ. But I would just like to share my comments with regard to Superintendent O'Shea, and they are shorter than my farewell statement, so it's helpful. Superintendent O'Shea has demonstrated enormous competency throughout his first year, and while generally familiar with the district prior to beginning his employment, Superintendent O'Shea has made a concerted effort and taken a thoughtful approach to addressing the needs and concerns of staff, students, and the Long Meadow community. Superintendent O'Shea is a professional who takes the time to think through the outcomes of every decision. He responds with serious concerns with respect and the proper sense of urgency. He is genuine in his interactions with various stakeholder groups, with those individuals usually leaving having felt heard and valued. He cares deeply about the work he does, and it is evident through his interactions with members of the staff and parents. He does not rush decisions, rather employs a deliberative process that ensures the best possible outcome. This school year has not seen any significant challenges brought to the attention of the school committee, I attribute that largely to Superintendent O'Shea's ability to anticipate problems and respond in kind. Moreover, Superintendent O'Shea management of the budget this past year was outstanding. His leadership through negotiations with the Board of Selectmen has helped him develop and maintain credibility and mutual respect, the end result being a successful budget with minimal staff reductions and the inclusion of adjustment counselors in middle schools, a longstanding priority for this school committee. Superintendent O'Shea's ability to work collaboratively with honesty and transparency is also evident in the successful submission of statements of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the Glenbrook and Williams Middle Schools. Superintendent O'Shea's willingness to speak directly to the concerns of select board members was helpful in that process. I am pleased to give Superintendent O'Shea my highest possible evaluation for his performance this year. He has proven himself a dedicated, respectful, and knowledgeable superintendent who keeps his eyes on the child. And I am proud of him and proud that he is employed in our district. Our community is better for him being here. Our schools are better for his leadership. Superintendent O'Shea is an exemplary superintendent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
thank you
to the committee for a fair, clear process, and I appreciate the constructive advice that I received throughout, and certainly open to that on a regular basis. And it's been a great year. I've enjoyed every minute of my time here, and I've appreciated the support of the committee throughout. And I appreciate the opportunity to have frank discussions, and appreciate the opportunity to give us the space to work through problems, and to hopefully, I hope you see that I've tried to drive the goals that the school committee came up with back in September, and remain committed to that. So thank you to all.
John?
If I could, just on procedure, I thought we were all supposed to give our judgments publicly.
There's no rule. You can if you want to, and if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Okay, well, I'll just abbreviate mine. Okay, over the course of my teaching career in the committee service, I've worked and served with 7 superintendents. I believe Dr. O'Shea is the best of those with whom I have worked. He's a thorough professional who has made education his life work and has mastered all of the skills that a superintendent should possess and deploy. He communicates well with community and staff, and keeps the committee well informed of crises, budget challenges, legal issues, and developments, and the always challenging need for correctly calling snow days. I was one of the committee members to vote for his selection as superintendent. I think his performance in office confirms the trust and confidence that we placed in him when we made that selection. I'm happy to state for the record that Dr. Marty O'Shea is an exemplary superintendent of schools, and we are fortunate to have had him on board for the current year. I believe the quality of his work will continue to benefit the students of the Long Meadow Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. And, you know, I mentioned snow days because for some people, that's the only criteria for evaluating a superintendent.
That's true.
For the students,
and
yeah, for the
parents.
students, that's definitely the criteria, yeah.
I liked it when you used the kids' voices on
That was
the
fun.
snow day announcement.
Yeah.
I actually think we should try to do that.
That was fun.
More frequently.
I want to come up with another version of that next year.
Yeah,
That
it
was fun
really
to do
cool.
that, yeah.
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 I'll read my really short one.
This is
Marty,
the short one.
you've done an excellent job sensing what the parent community and students need for this year, and I think spending some focus on this area of need is helpful. I hope that in the future you'll continue this and continue looking out for the students and staff where there are uncertain times of the role of education in America.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Well, I don't not want to read mine, but I'll try to
No,
read
I
it.
just remember getting so much flack last year about not reading it by community members, so.
Oh.
Okay. So, I can read mine. Dear Marty, I cannot express how much of a pleasure it has been to work with you this year. You faced many challenges coming to our district at the time that you did. With ease, you began to instill true leadership in our community. It is with great honor and respect that I deliver this evaluation reflecting an incredibly successful first year as our superintendent. Instructional leadership, I believe that the thought and time you spent building relationships with your staff at the very beginning was exceptional. As reflected in your exemplary rating for this category, you earned the respect of your colleagues by involving them, listening to them, and trusting them. It is because of that respect that you have already created an environment that fosters challenge, growth, and ultimate success. With those critical components, all areas of your instructional leadership were effective. Management and operations. Because of your professionalism, your attention to detail, and your exceptional leadership skills, all indicators in this professional standard were exemplary. Whether it was how you designed and delivered our 2017-18 budget, how you organized the Blueberry Hill principal search, or how you continuously showed ethics and care when communicating an unfortunate incident to our community, your performance was outstanding. Family and community engagement. It Takes a Village was published the year I became an educator and has remained a beacon for me ever since. I truly believe that within the pages of this book lies the key to success for every child and family and every school district responsible for delivering education. For better or worse, Longmeadow is a community full of actively involved parents who only want the best for their children. I appreciate the way in which you value and seek their input, engage them in your decision-making, and effectively communicate with them what is happening in their student lives. Most importantly, thank you for the respect you've shown them when you address their concerns. Each of these indicators in this professional standard was exemplary. Professional culture. Perhaps because of all the areas described above, you have productively restructured the professional culture in our district. I believe you entered Longmeadow at a time when we had room for growth, making each of these indicators even more challenging. In just 1 year, you have worked from the ground up to create a culture that accurately reflects what our students and educators deserve. I am incredibly grateful that you found your way back to Longmeadow and know that every year you will work harder to build on the success you have achieved in your first year. Thank you for your time and commitment to my own children, to Longmeadow's children, to their mentors, and to our entire community.
Thank you.
It's not like you're just going to take us out to the park.
The world's longest.
Good job.
This will not delay the Celtics game.
No.
I am pleased with your first year performance. You have made a positive connection with the school community and the community at large. I think overall I didn't really have a lot to say because I think things are going well, but the only thing I'll note that was different in my ratings compared to the overall rating, everything was basically the same. except for development of a district improvement plan. I know we've been working on a whole bunch of other things, so I didn't put met because it's not done, which I understand because we had a whole bunch of other things going on this year. Not that that was any criticism at all, it was just, it's not actually met yet because we had homework and recess and middle schools and all those things. So anyway, but my ratings were, positive this year, very positive.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go. So, in terms of what I wrote, I guess I'll go through that first. The professional practice goals, I wrote, there was significant strength was shown throughout the year with respect to communication with staff, families, town officials, and community organizations. Strong support was given to developing a health and wellness team to identify, discuss, and address student needs. Student learning goals, inquiry-based learning was supported with the implementation of the FOSS Science Series at the elementary level and use of feedback from staff to inform ongoing implementation and assessment of needs, instructions, time, resources, training. It is my hope that student learning goals will be expanded for next year to include all grade levels. I think that with your first year, it was expected that this might be kind of surface, but I really, student learning goals are very important, and I really would like to see that for the coming years to cut across all the grade levels. District improvement, significant progress was made with the development of a district improvement plan as information was gained over the course of the year from staff, families, and the community to inform its development. And I think on that one I wrote significant progress because we don't have it yet, and that's understandable because you were collecting data. But really for the coming years, the coming year, I would really like to see that district strategic plan and then the improvement plan, because that really guides everything. But again, it was the first year, and I think the most important thing was the data collection and reaching out to families and hearing where we are as a district, and that was a really big strength of yours, and I think that because of it, you've been able to collect a lot of data that is essential for creating that district improvement plan, so I look forward to that next year.
Thank you.
So being the chair, mine was very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I will say that, I spent a lot of time really highlighting some of your strengths, and as you mentioned, Marty, I also talked about some of the, constructive feedback points too, because I felt a real deep sense of obligation to do that, and I know that you're the kind of person who appreciates it, and I wouldn't have written it if I didn't feel that way about you, and know that in giving that kind of feedback that it's going to help our, you and help our community moving forward. So, without reading the whole thing, I do want to highlight how much I've enjoyed working with you this year, and as the chair, really being a witness to how hard you've worked, truly above and beyond the workday. Your car is here late, many, many evenings, and you've gotten yourself out into the community to meet people and really just immersed yourself in the community and really worked hard, and I appreciate everything you've done in that area. And I think two of the biggest shining moments, of course, this year were you came in and you were like, oh my gosh, there's a middle school controversy in this town too, this is chasing me, and we were like, we gotta do this, and you know what, you were incredible. You went out to those schools, you went out to those PTOs, you went to the town, you went to the, you spoke to everybody that you could, and you really you got it done, and of course with the hard work of the middle school working group and the committee as well, but your leadership was integral to us getting, finally, after so many years of struggles with the community, getting that SOI pass is huge. And I don't know that our committee has ever even taken a moment to say, wow, that was such an amazing accomplishment. And then also with the budget negotiation too. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and one of the ironies, I think, of being a superintendent is, the fact is I don't do the work, right? I mean, the people around me that do the work, and whether it's, Sue and Tom or principals or assistant principals or the teachers, at the end of the day, they get the work done and they move the district, and my hope is that I can support that work and guide that work, and so I really appreciate the feedback and please know that I'm always open to your constructive advice and direction. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We will move on. Actually, we have to table the nurse vote because we just got some information tonight that the process isn't complete for Glenbrook Middle School, who's hiring a new nurse. Unfortunately, we lost Kristen. Kristen, we're going to miss you so much. Thank you so much for all of your service to Glenbrook Middle School and taking such good care of our children. And so we'll look at that probably next meeting here,
yeah.
anticipating.
Yeah.
Do we still want to do the meeting schedule discussion, or do we want, wait, Michelle, I wasn't sure, for next year, do we want to say a few things about that, or?
Yeah, just quickly, I wanted to see, what the remaining members' schedules were like for next year. I would love to introduce some daytime meetings if that's possible for anybody's schedule, for everyone's schedule, just because I think not only for me, but I think having only evening meetings for the school committee limits who can serve or who would like to serve, because it's such a tough time, to do them at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So I just wanted to put that out there for the people that will still be serving. And you probably don't know your schedule yet.
I absolutely can't do daytime. I can't. Between everything that I'm committed to and my work, and getting here at 6 o'clock is tough. Really, really tough. So in terms of who it limits, I think for those who work, it's really tough. So I don't know. It will be. I hate. I'm always wanting to be flexible and meet, and I would love to not sit here, but it also poses a even more difficulty. I mean, because you are so constrained in our meetings, you just never know when they're gonna end, and then you have other things. Yeah, that would be tough.
I realize that I'm not going to be here next year, but there are very, very few boards and committees in the town of Longmeadow that meet at any time other than 7 p.m. And this committee, obviously, this year decided to go to 6 p.m. But these meetings, while they are held for the convenience of members and for the business of the school committee, they are held in public. They are a public service. They are held at a time where the public is able to attend and able to watch. And that public does not just include school parents, but it includes working parents. It includes senior citizens and those people in town who don't have children in school, many of whom come to these meetings. On top of it, today we had every single one of our principals here. And to hold a meeting during the day would take them away from their day job, quite frankly, where they need to be in their buildings with students. It would also cause a massive disruption to the work that goes on in the central office by pulling the superintendent and the administrative assistant and the 2 assistant superintendents away from their core responsibilities to come here. I think that by moving a meeting to a daytime meeting would be doing a massive disservice to the public, and quite frankly would limit the ability of the public to attend and participate in these meetings. And honestly, I think we all were flexible this year with the desire to move meetings, but it has been a hardship for me. I know it's been a hardship for you, Stephanie. I know that, Russell, it's been a hardship for you. And in fact, it's actually made it harder for people to get here. And we haven't had that many people here, but I've had people respond to me asking where the meeting is at 7 o'clock on a Monday night instead of 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So as a future member of the public and a former member of this board, I would encourage the future school committee to hold meetings at the convenience of the public, in full public view, and not in the middle of the day when people can't attend these meetings or provide reasonable feedback.
Michelle.
So I appreciate your arguments, but I think that having them only at 7 o'clock limits a lot of people from coming that would be here. We have no one here. It's, at 7 o'clock we had no one here. And I think that there are a lot of parents and community members that have flexible daytime schedules but not flexible evening schedules. So I was offering to alternate so that we, like we do with PTO meetings and other meetings that we have, we find people coming during the day that are different from people coming at night.
I don't think. Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, I think that's true, but
And I also have a really hard time with
Sorry, John. Sorry.
Tuesdays at 6, or Mondays at 6, but I just can't do 6, really. I'm like-
6 is just bad.
But I do know the PTOs, there's a lot more people that go during the day than at night, but I think really largely this conversation, we'd have to figure out when you have the new members, what can everybody do? You know, I have no idea. So I do think that 6 is, I think you really have to do night or day. 6 is just makes it impossible for somebody who's working.
If I could, I want to speak up for 6 o'clock. For 8 years, we had meetings that went on till 11:30, midnight.
That was the problem
And
for us too, yeah.
That was because we weren't going to cut off debate, but, we had lost probably the entire television audience. And there was no one in the room except us talking to ourselves. Seriously,
It gets very punchy.
let's be honest about it.
It does.
I appreciate people working for a living, I do, really do. But 6 was an improvement on that back end of what
Thank
the
you.
7 members of the committee had to do the next day, as well as staff. They had to come in next morning bright and early or on time and function. And if you're up till midnight
I appreciate.
without drinking,
John, I really
No
appreciate you
purpose.
saying that because it's so funny, and I don't want to belabor this because it's late, but when I was on the committee many years ago, it was the same experience. We went to all hours of the night, and it just didn't generate good decisions. And I really wanted to. I bent over backwards this year to try to accommodate everyone's schedules and to try to get us to really maximize our thinking time of day so that we wouldn't go to crazy hours of the night. And honestly, I've done my best as chair to manage time for you all, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that this year, and I've done the best that I could do. But I appreciate, John, you saying that because I think 6, next year, clearly Russ has conflicts that we'll need to discuss as a new committee. But in terms of quality of our work product, there's no question that it's helped tremendously compared to what it was before. So, thank you. All right. Any motion? No? Steph?
And I would just say, I appreciate wanting to move to the day, and I get that, but I just hope that whatever happens when the new people come on, that we can come to a consensus, because if we do limit it, there's no one who can take 3 or 4 hours out of a day. It just can't. So in terms of, trying to open it up to the public, I get that, but you're limiting who can be on the committee. And honestly, that would be really hard for me, and if somebody else is working. So you're really cutting anyone out who works.
I think what Michelle is saying is that, unfortunately, whatever time we choose, we're limiting who we have on the committee. If it's during the day, we're limiting. If it's in the evening, we're limiting. For different reasons. Everybody has their own tough times of day. It's whether it's because you work during the day or you work at night or you have kids or whatever. We all, So
I get that, but committees meet at night because people work during the day.
I think what we'll do is we'll just.
I think a lot of committees meet during the day too. I keep seeing Michael nod like this, and you're being respectful with the way you say it. But my husband's on a lot of different boards and committees, and they meet during the day.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's no question.
How do we come to an agreement as a school committee? Because this was, when we talked about it, and I don't know who's going to chair next year, but how do you what is the process as a committee when you change the meeting time? So if it's during the day and it's like, I have to choose between my job and being on the committee, do we do is there a majority vote? How does that work?
When you organize, there would be a majority vote.
Yeah.
You'd vote who's chair, vice chair, all that. And then you'd talk
Okay.
about-
So we just see what the committee and then take
Yeah.
it from there. I very well may be in the minority, and the fallout is as it is.
This year, we didn't vote because I was working really, really, I think everybody in this committee knows I was working so hard to accommodate everybody, every single person on this committee. I cared about all of your schedules, everybody, including Michael. You brought up at the beginning of the year you were going to be in Boston. I obviously didn't want you to have a conflict there, and Monday and Tuesday were the only nights that we scheduled around that request. Stephanie had concerns, and I did my very, very best to serve all of you. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we have a motion to adjourn?
No, but I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It feels like midnight, even though it's 9:20.
For all your support.